Hi!
Hey, everybody. Welcome.
This is Solomon Blair next to me on the left. I'm Paul Gabriel. Dougie, I'm sorry, my voice doesn't go down low enough. So, yes, everyone, you might want to lower your voice when I talk, or just mute me when you rewatch the stream later on YouTube. So welcome to our stream for ZBrush 2018. So again, I'm Paul Gabriel. This is Solomon Blair.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Off camera, we got Joseph Drust.
Sir Joseph Drust.
At a computer.
At a computer.
Yes.
They don't let me off of it.
And nope. I saw it start. We are going to start the hashtags Joseph's backyard because he does have more things. In fact, I have something also for his backyard as well. So, for those that don't know what we're talking about, watch last year's stream. It was
I really didn't capitalize it. I should have done more for my backyard this time.
Listen, we had fun with it, I think. It was good times. So we are excited to show you ZBrush 2018. So we are going to be showing you some new features that we've been working on, what we do. So Joseph will be going first, followed by myself. But we are also going to be monitoring things for you on our chats. So Solomon here is going to be stationed here monitoring things for you.
That's right. I got the Twitch chat up.
Yep.
We got some giveaways for you guys as well.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 3 giveaways for the day. We're going to be giving away 2 ZBrush swag packs. So we got the official ZBrush. Yeah, Paul's basically just the poster boy right here. We got the T-shirt. We got the snapback hat, which is crucial. The official swell bottle, which I love this bottle, and of course the ZBrush hoodie ready for summer. Perfect.
Right on time.
Sweatshirts for summer.
Right on time. Transition into summer. Perfectly.
Yep.
So we're excited to give that stuff away. But before we give something away, there's also going to be, we're monitoring on YouTube. We're also monitoring on our other Facebook as well. But Solomon's going to be pretty much the entire time on the Twitch chat, which is on ZBrushLive.com as well. So we got multiple ways for you guys to watch the stream and communicate with us. So we're excited to get this going. So I know Joseph's been aching to show his 3-hour presentation to you guys.
4.5.
Now it's 4.5.
You jumped up before?
Wow, you've really cut it down.
Yeah.
You really cut it down a lot. So
Buckle up,
Solomon,
people.
you want to give something away to start off the show.
Yes, I do.
So you want to give away one of these startup kits. We've become calling it at the office the Kyle Johnstone starter kit.
It is the swag starter kit.
Yeah, since he
the
does a lot of the
official
work
ZBrush
to put
swag
those
kit.
together.
So I'm gonna throw you guys a question here, but the way this works is you're gonna be submitting this on Twitter with hashtag ZBrush 2018. What else do I need to mention them, Kyle? It's important for you to, those of you that are submitting your answers, to follow us on Twitter because Kyle will be sending the winner direct messages to get your address and all that good stuff so we can get it to you. So when you submit your answer, if you haven't followed us on Twitter, I don't know why you haven't yet, but
Kyle's grammar police too, so he's looking for proper grammar.
That's another important
Capitalization.
Capitalization.
Yeah,
So you guys all know how ZBrush terminology works. Proper, complete answers, capitalizations would be suggested.
And made up words.
Well,
Like
yeah.
Dynamesh.
Yeah, it made up words. That's right. We make up our own language as well. All right. So can we give away the first question? Is that fine?
Give away the first question? Sure.
All right.
Give it away.
Yeah, give it away.
Let's give away the first
Go ahead.
question.
What's the first question?
Okay. So question number 1 for the ZBrush swag kit is: what annual Pixologic event is hosted at the historic television center in the heart of Hollywood? In the heart of Hollywood.
Solomon's really enjoyed this question because
This
of
is
all
his
the
favorite
H's.
one.
This is a tongue twister of a question. Let's be honest.
Do it again.
So one more time for all you people. What annual Pixologic event is hosted at the historic television center in the heart of Hollywood? So again, submit your answer with hashtag ZBrush 2018, and good luck.
Yeah.
Good
luck with
luck.
that to get one of those swags. So we're going to start again, like I said, with Mr. Joseph Drust. So enough with Solomon and I on the couch. We're going to hand it over to Mr. Drust. Drust, take it away, my man.
All right. So how you guys doing? Welcome
Doing great,
to
thanks.
the stream. As Paul said, Paul's going to take a little nap while I do this. He keeps hitting me on how long I'm going to go here. So
Timer
we're
started.
going to see how long it takes. So thank you guys for showing up. Got some new stuff here to show you guys inside of this version here. Some exciting new things. So before I get into that, I just want to quickly just hit on the sculpting processes that are currently inside of ZBrush. So as an example here, I just have a simple polysphere that's been converted to a polymesh. And if you're already familiar with ZBrush or have already been using it, if you start modeling something, usually we'll get like a large brush, say like the move brush, and you're going to start pulling shapes out on your models. So let's say just establishing a silhouette on a form, and so changing your draw size, pulling things out, and just manipulating the digital ball of clay here. So when you get to a stage something like this, let's say I'm going to model a head of a turtle here. So I've got like my silhouette fleshed out in the different areas, getting that kind of defined. And then I get to this point here. So I want to go in and start sculpting on this. So I'd switch to, say, the clay buildup brush, and let's say I want to start, manipulating the geometry around its face, maybe adding, a mouth. So I'd come in and try to sculpt on this, and you're going to see I'm going to end up hitting a problem. So if I turn on my polyframes here, you're going to see that the mesh itself, its geometry, since I was just pulling it from that surface of that original sphere, is kind of stretching it out. So my topology down here is pretty dense, but then as I get to the area that I just pulled out of this model, I don't have enough resolution to support the stroke that I want to make. So at this stage, there is one solution you could do at this moment, and that is we could start using traditional subdivisions, so the tried and true method. So we go to the geometry palette over here. I can start dividing this up to get a little more resolution on that. And now, when I create a stroke from the body here up to the head, I'm able to start performing or getting a better stroke and start sketching in some of those details or ideas I have for this model. Now you'll still notice at this stage it's still inconsistent. So I still have a lot more density to my mesh at the bottom here and not as much density at the top. So we created a solution for this a little while ago, and that was using Dynamesh. So with Dynamesh, I can come over here and activate this. Dynamesh is going to look at the volume of your model and also the resolution, and it's going to generate new even surface topology across the entire mesh. So now with this model being Dynameshed, if I come down here and start sculpting and then go all the way up to the head there, you're going to see I'm going to get a consistent stroke across the model. So now with, say, Dynamesh active, let me just undo this crazy stroke here. I can now come in and start describing more of my forms. So I can start pushing out those mouth areas, start pulling up some of a nose, and start establishing an eye, and I can start sculpting on my model. I can switch to different brushes at this stage and start carving in surfaces, start establishing more of my forms. But you may end up getting to a point now where if I want to add more minute details, so let's say I go to the nose and I start carving in some nasal cavities for this creature. So you're going to see, even with Dynamesh right now, I don't have enough resolution to get those details. So at this stage, I could increase my resolution value here to get more topology across the entire surface, or I could even use traditional subdivisions, maybe ZRemesher. You got a few different options. The problem still, however, is that the tessellation, or the density of my mesh, is consistent through the entire stroke. So the area of topology down here is the same as the area up here by the nose. So if I don't need details on a certain area of my model, I'm still going to have enough geometry across the entire mesh. So not only am I getting details or mesh topology being dense where I'm sculpting those fine details, but it's dense everywhere. So for several years, our other application that we have, which is Sculptris, has had a solution to this. So if I just take this model and send it over to Sculptris here, here we have the model in Sculptris. And if you guys are familiar with Sculptris, this is our free application. And in here you have a detail slider you can change. And then as you sculpt on your model, when you sculpt, it's going to add tessellation to support that stroke. So I can come through and start describing different forms, and this is going to add geometry to those areas. So we thought about taking the process that Sculptris has and also the power of ZBrush and kind of creating a better bridge or a better connection between the two. So something that was far superior to, say, using just GoZ, some bridge between the two programs to harness both their powers. But after, using Sculptris, as wonderful as a program it is, it cannot process the same amount of data that ZBrush can. So this solution wasn't really a viable option. So instead of doing that, we went for a direction that we took that was the harder direction. And we went through and we integrated Sculptris, recoding the entire system to fit inside of the ZBrush interface. So at the top here, you guys may have noticed there is an Activate Sculptris button.
Oh, they noticed.
So this is the Sculptris logo. Now, since we did do a recode of the Sculptris system inside of ZBrush, not only did we get the initial functionality, but we also added some more bells and whistles, because that's what we do.
Of course we did.
So we have labeled this Sculptris Pro. Now, to activate Sculptris Pro, you can come across the surface here and you can toggle this on and off. Let me just get back to my mesh without.
Back to where you were happy with the sculpt?
Back where I was happy with the sculpt before that crazy nose got applied.
That undo history's there for.
You're making Donatello right now.
So to activate Sculptris, you can come up and click this icon here, or you can press / on your keyboard. One thing you'll notice when you activate Sculptris mode is that your cursor color will change. So you can see here we have Sculptris mode deactivated, and we have a red cursor. And if we activate it, we're going to get this purple cursor. And this is going to be something to look out for while you're using the mode, because sometimes there are functionalities in ZBrush that are not supported with Sculptris mode, such as having dynamics, or such as having traditional subdivisions. So as an example of how Sculptris mode works, I'm just going to turn on my polyframes here. Now, Sculptris mode, when it's turned on, is going to look at your brush size, and it's going to use your brush size to determine how much detail to add to your mesh. So if I select the clay buildup brush and get a pretty large draw size here, and I come across my model and sculpt, I'm going to get about this much tessellation generated. So it's going to start with the stroke, and it's going to tessellate it as I generate that stroke. And you can see it's going to be based on my brush size. So a larger brush size is going to give me larger tessellation, but then a smaller brush size is going to give me even more tessellation. So it's currently, Sculptris is going to look at your brush size to determine how much resolution to put in different areas on your model. Now this will work with the majority of brushes inside of ZBrush. So if I switch to, say, the damn standard brush, and I set this as a small draw size, this will come through and give me a lot of tessellation to support that tiny stroke. But then if I go back to clay buildup and get a large draw size, it's going to give me less resolution in that area just to support that larger stroke. So remember, brush size is your key element for this. Now the Sculptris mode, since we call it Sculptris Pro, is doing multiple things that Sculptris was not doing previously. So one thing it's doing is that not only is it adding tessellation to your model, but it's also applying a decimation at the same time. And we coined the phrase, Paul was talking about words, Tessimate. So not only
Making up words here, people. Making
can
them
you
up.
sculpt to add density, but you can also use the shift brush to remove density as well, to provide a decimation option. So let's say I have a model like this, and if I have Sculptris mode active and I hold down shift, you'll see that the cursor has changed to an orange color. And so this is different than if I have Sculptris mode off and hold down shift, which is blue. So with Sculptris mode on and you hold down shift, if I come across the model and sculpt, it's going to smooth the surface and also apply tessellation or decimation as needed to support that smoothing. So this is really handy, especially if you have a model that you may just want to smooth surfaces out, add some more details. You can hold shift and start smoothing, and it's going to start smoothing that surface, but also decrease the topology in that area. Now the functionalities of how Sculptris works, there's a few options for this, and these live inside the stroke menu here. And these can be set as a global level or also as a brush level, so per brush or global. And in here you have an option where you can define the tessellation and decimation based on your adaptive size, which will be by your brush, or you can set it based on these sliders here. And you also have the option to turn off the combine mode, which if it's off, when you smooth, it will only decimate and not tessimate at the same time. But these can also be set individually per brush, and this will be located in your brush palettes, and you have an enable and a use global inside of here. So you can set a brush to have specific Sculptris values and then save that out. You can have it use global ones, so you have a lot of flexibility in controlling how the brushes work with this mode.
We gave all three options
Yes.
to a user. So you guys can globally use Sculptris Pro across the whole brush system, or you can actually create your own Sculptris Pro brushes,
And that's, really
or you
nice.
can turn on global and then have other brushes that don't use Sculptris Pro. So you got all three.
There's tons of
scenarios.
options.
There's tons of options. Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to go through and we're going to make a little bit better turtle sculpt here. And I'm just going to use
You're not happy
Sculptris
with this
Pro.
one?
No, not yet.
Happy with this
we're
one?
adding to it. We're going to go
All right.
with it.
All right, go
I've
ahead.
made so many turtles in the past week or so. So I'm just going to go through and just show you how this is working. And the system here is very flawless. So as you start just sculpting on your model, it's just increasing and decreasing the topology on your mesh. So I can add surfaces and come back in and smooth it. And what you're seeing here is it's only going to affect the topology in the area that you're sculpting. So I can come do that, maybe add some eyes.
And you've created your own brush system for this, right? So you got when you're smoothing, you're getting bigger polygons.
Yes, you can
Your
also
preferred
customize that,
workflow.
and change that. So you can see and come through and do this. If I'm not happy with it, I can smooth it out. Now you'll notice as I sculpt normally, you'll see after, like if I switch to the clay buildup brush, and then say I go to the dam standard, you'll see that I change my draw size every time I do this. So dam standard, I usually want to be a small stroke, so something not as big as my clay buildup to establish that aspect, and then I come back with clay buildup, and I usually want this a little bit bigger. So you can see every time I switch that brush, I'm changing my size. So we've added up another little icon up here, and this little icon up here is called Remember Draw Size. So what this does, if I turn this on, it's going to remember the draw size per brush. So let's say with the clay buildup brush, I've got this set to 51. So if I come over here and start sculpting with clay buildup, you can see it's going to keep that size there. Well, then let's say I want to go into that damn standard brush. So I'm going to hit BDS to select that. And on this one, I wanted a small draw size, so maybe around 18 or 20. So now I can sculpt with that small detail with Sculptris mode on the model. Maybe add some lines here on his mouth. And then if I switch back to the clay buildup brush, look at this. It's remembered the draw size I had on clay buildup. So this is going to speed up your workflow if you enable this function here. So you can come through and sculpt large with the brush, and then instead of changing your brush size when you go to a brush that has a smaller size, it's just going to automatically do it for you. So this is really handy for coming in and adding details and sculpting and just not removing a step in your process. So you don't have to go and resize the brush every time you select it. So I've been having a lot of fun, especially with the Sculptris mode and using this option.
And that's a preference I want to highlight.
It is
you
a
don't
preference.
have to use
Yes,
this.
you don't have to use it.
This was a Joseph Drest.
It is. It was a
inspiration.
preference.
Yeah.
So another thing that we up here, you'll see we had this little S one here. We also have this little D one here.
Oh man.
And this is one of the, it's another feature you guys have sent a lot of support tickets on.
They've asked for this.
They've asked for this.
Yeah, they've asked for this.
So,
We heard the call.
so you guys, this little
We're answering the call.
button here is called Remember Dynamic Mode. And if this is deactivated, when you toggle dynamic mode, this is going to be a global option. So it's going to apply dynamic mode globally. So it's going to turn it on and off. So if I start ZBrush and I have my clay buildup brush, and I want it to not be in dynamic, I can toggle that off. It's not going to be in dynamic. Then if I switch to damn standard, still going to have dynamic off. Do we get any applause for this? Any applause?
Yeah, there's a lot of emojis happening in the Twitch chat.
But let's say I have this turned on. So if I have this turned on, this is now going to do it per brush. So you may want to have the damn standard use dynamic mode, but then when you switch back to clay buildup, you may want this to not have dynamic on. So you can toggle it now as a per brush basis or also as a global basis. So we're bringing you back the functionality that exists in 4R8 and also the functionality that existed in 4R7 at the same time for dynamic brushes. So big thing there. So this sculpture here with damn standard and say the clay buildup for this turtle, I can keep going on and on this for a while. It's been a lot of fun playing with this. And so just jump ahead here. You can see some of the madness I've been sculpting with Sculptris Pro. It by far is, I start up ZBrush and I turn it on instantly and just start playing with stuff. So here we have a example model here. This was all done with the Sculptris options, the new Sculptris Pro mode inside of ZBrush here. So I have a few subtools here, and if I just select one of these guys and turn on my polyframes, you can see the density of the wires here. So anywhere I click here on these guys, you can see the areas where I was sculpting that detail has that tessellation, and then areas where I didn't need that detail sculpted in has less resolution. So you're seeing the difference in the large triangles and the small triangles across the entire model. Now, the nice thing, we were talking about the smoothing option and how the smoothing is applying a decimation and a tessimation as well. Well, let's say I sculpted this turtle here, and we've been sculpting a lot of turtles.
No, not us, you.
It's just a central theme for this release.
And I said,
That is one lazy turtle, by the way.
I know, right? Somebody in the chat was like, what's that turtle doing?
He's on a
there?"
blind rabbit.
He's on a blind rabbit.
I mixed it up. Usually people are riding the turtles, but this
Yeah.
time I made the turtle be the ride.
I like it. I like what you did there.
Yeah. So let's say I'm not happy with this turtle's head, right? So I can just hold down the shift button, make sure I still have the Sculptris Pro mode active, and just scrub it out. Now the larger size I have this, the faster it's going to happen. And look, there goes the turtle's head.
Bye.
Then I come and say, get my clay buildup brush again, change my draw size, start drawing out a new head for this guy. You know, just playing with the shapes, playing with the forms. Maybe add some little eyeballs here, put one there, put one there. Maybe switch to that damn standard brush, go back in and start establishing a mouth. And you can see while I'm doing this as well, it's not affecting any other parts of my sculpt. So all the details and all the geometry I'm adding here is only affecting in that area I'm sculpting. So all this area here stayed the same. It hasn't changed. So that's another nice thing about the Sculptris Pro mode. So I have a few more examples here. So we've been showing examples here with models that were created from primitives or spheres. But I'd also like to talk about creating and using Sculptris Pro on models of existing geometry. So here I have another example file here, and this is the female demo head here. And so hitting on the Sculptris mode and also smoothing again, let's say I have this model. So I pull it in as a base mesh, and I want to go through and start concepting some designs. So maybe do a female version of a swamp thing or a swamp creature or something that's in water. So for that, I probably would need an ear, right? So ears are human. You're going to need some sort of gill system if you're living underwater.
Yep, that makes sense.
So I need to get rid of this ear. So if I had Sculptris mode off and I came through here, we'll say a pretty good sized brush here, and I start smoothing this out, just holding down Shift and smoothing, you can see it's going to start smoothing the topology here, but it's just bunching it up together. So it's relaxing that surface, but all that topology that was there, that was creating that ear, is still there. So if I come back through now with, say, the clay buildup brush and try to generate a stroke from the chin here through the ear, you're going to see I'm going to need a disconnect. So the stroke down here is very rough, and then when I get to that area that has all that dense topology that I just relaxed, I'm getting a difference in strokes. So I didn't remove the geometry, I just smoothed it out. So now there are other functions you could do inside of ZBrush to do this. I could cut the ear off using, say, trim brushes. I could also just slice it, remove it, close the holes, use Dynamesh. So various functions you can do with the existing version of ZBrush. But one thing with the Sculptris mode that when we turn this on, it's removed all those time-consuming, potentially time-consuming processes, and I can just smooth it away. So I'm going to go turn Sculptris mode on. I'm going to just make my brush size a little bit large here. And I'm just going to come across this existing model, hold down Shift, and just smooth it out. And you can see instantly that ear is gone. Now if I turn off my polyframes here, you can see I have a nice clean surface where I can go establish more geometry onto it. So since we were making some sort of creature from the deep, let's say they probably don't need a nose either. You're not going to be breathing water through your nose. So let's just smooth that out as well and just remove it. So totally gone. I can also come in and say, let me just highlight or fix, maybe I want some harsher edge lines here to the actual eye area. So damn standard brush, change to that small draw size, and I come in and just sculpt on that area there. And if I turn on my polyframes, you can see the density for those models, for the model, is only added where I applied that stroke. And you see I get these nice surfaces here where I smooth these things out. Now, by using this option, we found that there was a lot of brushes inside of ZBrush that worked really well with Sculptris mode. So one of these is the spin brush, spiral brush. So I'm going to come down here and select spiral. And you're going to see another thing I want to hit on here too. So let's take this brush here, and I'm going to go over here and just mess with some color. Just put a little color to this brush. Maybe turn on RGB. Okay. So let's first do this without Sculptris mode active. So I'm just going to turn Sculptris mode off. So let's say I want to go and apply a spiral effect to this model. So I want some sort of crazy gills happening here. So normally I'd come across my surface and click and drag, and it's going to apply this spiral effect.
Gorgeous.
You see I'm getting some painting to go along with it since I had RGB on. But you can see, since I didn't have enough topology to really support this stroke, that this is what I got out of it. So a lot of triangulation in there. Now I could Dynamesh this model to get that even topology across the entire mesh and then use it, which would give me a better result. But instead of doing all that, let's just activate Sculptris mode. And now with Sculptris mode active, if I repeat this same process, you're going to get this kind of effect, and it's going to add topology as it does this. So it's adding topology to support this spiral stroke. Now another thing you'll notice is when I did this, I had RGB mode on. So what this means is that Sculptris mode also supports painting. So you can use Sculptris mode and the brushes inside of ZBrush, turn on RGB, and you can even use it with just no Z add and just have it straight as RGB color, and it's going to divide your mesh and allow it to support that poly painting option. So really handy function there. So poly painting with Sculptris Pro and also spiral brush, you can start getting craziness.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this brush.
All sorts of
I did too.
I made a couple of my own, actually, that were
Yep.
really fun, like made frames and stuff.
Somebody was
sorts of
asking
crazies.
trim dynamic, using trim dynamic with.
Same thing will work really well. So you can trim things out, and instead of collapsing that geometry on top of each other, it's now going to remove it and give you that nice surface.
Yep.
You were a big fan of trim dynamic.
I was a big fan of trim dynamic.
Yeah.
So another thing that we were experimenting with Sculptris Pro mode is we just showed you the spiral brush here. And as Saul mentioned, the trim dynamic, trim adaptive, they all work really well too, is say the snake hook brushes. So a lot of people will use the snake hook brushes for just modeling inside of ZBrush to generate arms and limbs. So they'll start with a shape and they'll just use snake hook to pull it out. So first I'm going to turn Sculptris mode off just so you can see the difference in the snake hook here. So here's snake hook without Sculptris mode, so just dragging it out. And you can see, once again, I'm reaching that plateau of my mesh. So I have some density here, and as I start pulling it out, it's getting triangulated. And so I'm losing that surface. So once again, I have to Dynamesh this up, divide it up, increase the topology in that area, and then I could use that brush to generate the effect I'm looking for. If I activate Sculptris mode and do this same process again, you're going to see I'm going to get the topology that's going to grow with the stroke. So now I'm able to create these shapes. And these can be created anywhere on your model, so just clicking and dragging, and it's going to add geometry to those surfaces. Now, another thing with Sculptris Pro, we talked about the smoothing mode to remove ears, but with the smoothing options, we can also start removing geometry from our models. So let's say with these snake hook brushes here, maybe these aren't the direction I want to go with. And so maybe I want to create some sort of water droplets or some sort of effects. Maybe I want to turn this into splashes eventually. So if I come across one of these strokes I just made with the snake hook brush, make sure I still have the Sculptris Pro mode active, and I come across here, hold down Shift, and then Smooth, I'm going to be able to smooth away.
I love this.
And so I'm going to create divisions in areas of my topology. So smoothing away, and now I have these little geometry islands
the
on my
wireframe
mesh.
real quick, please.
And so there's the wireframe on that. And now I can go back in and say use the snake hook again and come through and start establishing different forms on this. So just playing with the shapes and the designs on my meshes. So really a lot of freedom, a lot of creativity. I'm not bound to the topology of my mesh. I can just freely create and decide what I like on the fly. Now with the smooth brush as well, if you have these little geometry islands, let's say this isn't really doing it for me, I want to get rid of it. So I can come through and use that smooth option again, and now I can just smooth away the geometry. So I can smooth that island away. Let's smooth this one away too.
Just
coming through and
How
smoothing.
amazing is that?
And then the larger you have your smooth brush, the faster it's going to affect. So then I can go back and start getting back to that original surface I had for the model and start all over.
Back
Doesn't
to
it just
Voldemort.
feel good when you do that?
It does.
When you can just,
it does. Just erase.
Yeah.
Erase.
It's just great.
So if you guys are familiar with the snake hook brush, we've added a few things since we started playing with the snake hook brush quite a bit with Sculptris mode. We've been replacing the move brush with snake hook in all our tests too. Like I'm using a lot more snake hook than anything else because it will tessellate as you pull those surfaces out, which gives you nice geometry. So the snake hook, if you guys have used it before, is based, when you use the stroke, it's going to be based on your camera angle. So if I have the head here positioned like this and I take the snake hook and I use it and draw a form out, you're going to see it's going to be drawing this out based on your camera angle. So if I rotate up here, you're going to see it's pretty straight or flush with that camera angle I had. So we found that sometimes this was great, it was exactly what we wanted, but there were times when, say, working with a model like this, that we wanted, the snake hook to perform a little different. Like I didn't want to be able to draw something off the forehead here and have it go along the camera axis. Maybe I wanted to go along the surface normal. So we've added another snake hook brush, and this is called the Snake Hook 2 brush. Now this brush is going to look at the surface geometry, and it's going to look at the surface normal you click on, and it's going to generate the snake hook from that. So if I come across this area here on the mesh and drag this out, you're going to see that it's no longer going along the camera axis, but it's now going along the normal of the model. So this has been a huge thing in just generating different horns or surfaces on the mesh, especially hair, follicles, all sorts of fur things, because it's going to grow it out of the surface based on that normal. Now there are modifiers you can change in the brush palette that will allow you to tailor how much it generates the snake hook brush from the surface normal to the camera, so you can blend between the two and get different effects on that. Now playing with the snake hook 2, I have another scene here. I just want to load up here quick.
Beautiful.
So here I have a little scene with some rocks here. And with this, playing with the snake hook brushes again, not only do we generate the snake hook 2 brush, which is allowing to pull geometry with the snake hook off the surface normal, but we started messing with the snake hook and alphas. And one brush we created here is the snake cactus brush.
Everybody needs a cactus.
Everybody needs a practice brush.
This is in Joseph's backyard.
It could be. It's
Is
a little,
this even
it's a little
part of
too
your,
cold.
Is this actually a part of your backyard?
It could be. It might be. It might be like a stepping stone, like
Into your pond?
Yeah, to the pond. You never know. You never know. So let's take the cactus brush here, and let's just use this really quick. So I have this scene kind of set up here. I have my brush loaded. You can see there's this alpha. It's just one of the default alphas that's loaded here. And I have a little green color going on with this, And I'm going to draw this out, and voila.
Pickle Rick!
Look at that.
Pickle Rick brush.
So this is the cactus brush, or as Paul mentioned, the Pickle Rick brush. So you can come through and just, make your favorite animated character or make cactuses. And I come across the surfaces here and draw this out. You'll see it's also supporting color as I do this. So once again, Sculptris mode will work with poly painting. So I'm adding geometry and also colorizing that geometry as I draw it out. Now the snake hook cactus brush here, this is just the one that we're including because it makes cactuses and also Pickle Rick.
Yeah, obviously.
But you can use this with any other alpha. So some of the other alphas we've been having fun with, If you select this alpha 55 down here, I can select that. Let's change it now to some blue color here. And I come across the surface and drag this out, and now I've got this crazy shape going on.
Oh, yeah.
So all different things you can do with different alphas now. And what ZBrush is doing when it has an alpha applied to the snake hook, it's taking it and spinning it around to giving these different effects. So now I've got some crazy underwater plant life. And then I can even go to, say, something like the alpha 17. And this one gives me like this crazy tubular type shape, right? So really cool stuff you can do with that.
It's too bad The Last of Us 2 is almost, it's probably done. That would have been a good brush for fungus. Or
Fungus creatures. You can apply it all over your models.
Yeah.
It
Good
looks like it
stuff.
belongs in a fish tank now.
Yeah,
It is.
I think so.
It went from desert scene to now fish tank. So I got another thing here we want to talk about quick. So we're talking about Sculptris Pro for using it on existing meshes. Here I have an example file here that was modeled the same way with Sculptris Pro. So I have been having a lot of fun playing with shapes, playing with forms. And one thing I was doing when using this process was, I do a lot of 3D printing. So taking something, using Sculptris Pro,
Wait,
and then also
do
printing
a lot
it
of
out.
3D printing?
Some.
Mm-hmm.
Some.
By the way, that's a joke because he goes through an insane amount of resin.
So here we go. So let's zoom in on this here. So you can see this mesh was created with Sculptris Pro. And if I turn this off, you can see I have it keyed already. So I went through and keyed this up for 3D printing. You can see the distribution in the polygons on this model. So once again, using Sculptris Pro has allowed me to keep this mesh a little lighter. So you can see my active point count, even though as dense as this is really low. So the details added where I needed it, but then areas along the top of the head where I didn't need that detail is now containing larger polygons. So this was a huge thing in just generating the stuff, keeping your meshes watertight. So if you guys are doing any kind of 3D printing, you'd probably get a mesh to this stage. You'd set up your keys with the live Boolean system, which is extremely powerful and handy for doing that. And then at this stage, you need to send it to a printer. So oftentimes when you're sending stuff 2-bit 3D printed, you're ending up using another feature that's inside of ZBrush called Decimation Master. So if you guys are familiar with this, if you go to the Z plugin tab up here, there's a Decimation Master option here. And if I open this up, you guys are familiar probably with selecting your subtool, pre-processing that subtool, and then applying a amount of percentage of decimation you want or a poly count, and then decimating that model down. Well, we've added some new presets here down in Decimation Master that are going to make the option of decimating your model a one-click solution. So instead of pre-processing and then decimating, you can now come down here and simply click one of these buttons. So we have a bunch of presets here, and we also have a custom one that you can set. This custom one will be stored after you change it, so it's going to be stored in memory. So next time you restart ZBrush, this custom value will be remembered too, which is another handy thing. So say you like 512 instead of 250, you can set that in the custom value, and it will be remembered by ZBrush. So I'm just going to go ahead and decimate this model quick to 250K, and just so you can see how this process works. So it's not going to go through and pre-process. It's just a single click, and it's going to take my model and decimate it down.
And you were using this also sculpturally at the same time, in sculptural sense.
In Sculptris.
With Sculptris Pro.
Yes. So here I have the decimated version of my model. So you can see this is what it looks like here. And I'm just going to undo this quick so you can see the difference. So here I have the version that was not decimated. And then here I have the decimated version. So you can see it's removed the topology and held the sculptural details. If I turn on my polyframes here and just switch between these two, wrong one, you're not going to see any change. And so this is one of the great features of decimation is it's going to retain all your sculptural detail, but bring your count down. So you can see my active point count here is changing. So this was the original one that I had, and then the decimated one is now lighter, but it still held those details. So now let's say after I've decimated this out, I've sent it to 3D printing, I've got it printed, I'm holding the model in my hand, and I find out, you know what, some of these wrinkles need to be a little deeper. I may need to add some horns to the model. Yeah, I just need to make some changes. So instead of going through the entire process, like taking the model, maybe re-dynameshing, maybe resetting up these keys, what I can do is with Sculptris Pro mode now is that I can just take the model I have already and just use Sculptris mode. So this is the one I just sent to 3D printing. I can now switch to say the damn standard brush, get my small draw size there. I can come in here and clean up some of these wrinkles. Maybe I want these a little bit tighter, a little bit longer, come through and mess with that. Let's say I want to add, some horns to this. So I can switch to say the snake hook brush again. We're going to switch to the snake hook 2 brush, as we talked about it, pulling off a surface normal. And come across the model here and just start pulling some horns out there. can smooth these down with Sculptris mode and come in with dam standards, start cleaning up, roughing up these edges here, adding some different kind of angles, all sorts of stuff here. And what is happening is this is the same model I just sent to print. And it's only changing the parts of the model where I'm adding these new features. So this whole key here, if I've already printed out, it's working perfectly with the rest of the model, but I just need to change this part. I don't have to redo any of that. I don't have to change my scales. I don't have to re-Dynamesh it. I don't have to do anything. I can just make the changes with Sculptris Pro and then send it directly to print. So this has been a really handy feature just for touching up models after you've already gone through and printed them. So with Sculptris mode, we've been making some crazy creatures with this. So here's another example of a model that was made with Sculptris Pro. This is Paul's favorite.
Hands up.
We'll be doing that again if I remember. So once again, you can see the topology on the mesh here, and I can come across any area on the model while Sculptris Pro is active. And if I want to add more details here or flesh things out, you can see as I do this, it's just going to add geometry where I need it. So really handy functionality. Now with this, when we started making characters like this, we oftentimes, as artists, we want straps, we want belts, we want all sorts of stuff. So we've modified some of our strap options as well, or our curve options rather, inside of ZBrush. So as an example here I have a belt that's just coming across the model here. This is just a square model here, and if you noticed, it's named a little bit different. I've got this new name here called Liquid. So we've added some options for our curve brushes. So any curve brushes you have existing or have been using inside of ZBrush can all take part in these new features we've added. So if I go to the stroke palette here and I go to the curve area, you can see we have a button that's labeled elastic, and we also have a button that's labeled liquid. So elastic mode is going to work kind of like a rubber band. So if I have the strap here and I want to just expand or contract this part of the curve, I can simply click on this and drag it out, and it's going to function like a rubber band. So I can draw it out and then constrict it, draw it out, constrict it. The elastic mode is going to work on this kind of straight mentality, or generating lines. So I can draw out something like this, draw out another one, draw out another one, and I can start generating straight lines with my curves. So this is really handy for generating stuff on your models. Now, in addition to this, after you have, say, a strap drawn out, oftentimes when you're inside of ZBrush, you may want to remove part of it, or you may want to shorten it or do something to it. So let's say I don't want this square option over here. So we've added some options of the ability, add some functionality to the smoothing options inside of ZBrush. So normally before, in ZBrush 4.8, if you came across and smoothed the surface, it would just smooth the existing curve out. Well, now, not only is it going to smooth, but it'll also remove segments of the curve that are not needed. So if I hover over the curve now and click on it, and then hold down Shift and then move my mouse, I'm going to be able to start smoothing this curve out. And as you can see, as it smooths out, it's removing the sections of the curve that were no longer needed. So it's not just smoothing the curve, it's removing and smoothing. You also notice as I'm playing with the curve over here, the rest of my curves are staying. So it hasn't modified any of this. So I'm able to come through and freely manipulate this. And I can also grow and shrink these as well. And this is all with just the elastic mode on. Now we had another mode up here, which is called liquid. And so if I change to liquid, liquid's going to give me a little more flexibility. This one, instead of working on that straight line function, is going to work on a kind of more organic. So if I grab the end here and drag this out, you can see I can start generating surfaces like this. Then if I don't like it, I can drag backwards, and this is now going to remove that curve. Now I've been doing this often on this model here at the end of the surface, but this isn't required to do it at the end of the stroke. I can do this anywhere on the curve. So if I want to add more curve length to this section here, I can just come across it and drag, and it's going to add more curve there. And you can see anything past this one edge of the curve is not going to change or be modified. So I can grow this out, then I can come back in, I can use that smooth option again to constrict it, grow it out. So you have a lot more control and flexibility of your curves as you're using this. And then if I don't want this, I can just shrink it back, use that smooth function again to smooth that down and construct that curve. So really handy functionality added to the new curve, to the curve brushes. Now another thing you guys will run into often, if I rotate around the back here, you guys should be able to see this. So I have the curve around this model, and you can see this section right through here is penetrating into his back. Well, if this is a belt or a strap, that doesn't really happen in real life, so I want to move that out. So oftentimes at this point, I'd have to either maybe condense this curve down to geometry and then move it out. I could try redrawing it, I can try repositioning it. But what we found out is that we added another functionality to this, like the smooth functionality, which will allow you to twist a curve. So I'm going to come across the curve here, and I'm just going to change this to my secondary draw size here to a larger one. I'm going to click on this curve, and then I'm going to hold down Control, and now I can rotate this curve. So this will allow me to find areas on the curve that are maybe being embedded in my model. And this will happen oftentimes if you have straps that are going around shoulders, underneath arms. And then I come in and just manipulate that, and now I've fixed that anomaly in my curve. Now this will also work in other areas of the curve as well. So if I come to this front one here and just kind of make this lower and come across this, click on it, then hold Control, and then move my mouse, and I'm going to get this spiraling effect too. So you come through and add even elements like this and get some crazy curve
People are
designs
loving that, by
out
the
of
way.
it. Are they?
Chat's going nuts for that one.
That's a big one. It's a
It
big one.
is.
And then once again, if I'm not happy with this, I can just click on the curve, hold down Shift, smooth it out. I can also just, with this liquid or elastic mode on, just change the length of this curve as well and get it back to where it looks a little more normal. So yep, there we go. Curves. What?
I love it.
All right, so I got two more things I want to hit on quick, and then we'll pass
music when you do
we'll
that.
pass it over to Paul. So you guys have been sending in stuff for years.
Years. 19.
19 years. 19 years to be
specific
exact.
About it.
And this, you know, we saw some comments in the chat about the was it the red wax?
Yeah.
Yes, the red wax.
Red wax.
There was a lot of banter before that we were going to come up with Red Wax 2.
Red Wax 2,
Red Wax
yeah.
2.0. Red Wax, I don't know. We should just paint Joseph in red wax.
How do you know I'm not painted in red wax?
It's possible.
Whoa, I don't know.
Let's continue on.
It was March Madness. It still is March Madness.
You are, but your
Red
team's
Wax
out.
team.
Your team's
Red Wax
out.
team is out.
Your
Team
team's
is
out.
All right, so.
Loyola.
Oh, yep. So, some of you guys are fans of red wax. So it's not bad material. I'm not going to say I'm a fan, but you know. So, but for years you guys have been requesting, well, can we get a startup material that's not red wax? So we've listened, we've heard your pleas, and we have added this button in the material option here called
Red Wax 2.
Save as Startup Material.
What?
So, if you guys are fans of red wax, nothing's changed. You can still love it the same as you always have. But let's say you wanted to start up as another material. Maybe you want to start up as Matcap Gorilla, maybe a custom material already had, maybe the polyskin, maybe even just the basic material. So you simply can select the material you want and then come down here to the Save as Startup Material. And this will take that material, and now the next time you start ZBrush, that will be the startup material.
Rest in peace.
Bye, Red Wax material.
Bye-bye. I wonder what's the percentage of people that still... Who sculpts still in red wax? Actually?
I don't know. There's a lot.
good
I think
question.
they're getting,
I would
they're
like
getting
to
more.
know.
Yeah, I think there's.
Can
quite
you
a
put
few.
in chat, I do, if you still sculpt? I'm just intrigued, though.
Yeah.
Just intrigued.
I'm interested to see.
All right, so I got another little thing that you guys have been
there's
requesting
people.
too. Just a little thing. So I'm just going to open the light box here, and in here I'm going to navigate to this little quick save option here. So you can see here you have some quick saves.
Buckle up, Thomas.
So you can see some failed meshes through here. And I just want to highlight one of these. And some of you guys may notice instantly what I'm going to point out next. But if you look over here, after I click one of these models, you see I have the path to where these quick saves are stored. And I'm just going to use the handy-dandy Paul magnifier here. It's his favorite. You're going to see that my quick save folder is located on the E drive.
Whoa.
Could be for Elastic.
Another feature request.
The Elastic drive.
So with this version, you'll be able to change where your quick save files can go. So no longer are you going to be a slave to the C drive. You can put it anywhere. Put it anywhere. But Thomas Whittlebach, this is for you.
Yeah. Wait, I want to know if anybody
You
does
get a
more than him.
drive.
Thomas, I think you're doing, what, 100 quick saves right now? I think he said it is.
Wow.
Does
A day
anybody
or
do
an
more
hour.
than that?
Yeah.
I'm just another one of those out there to you, the community, because that's a lot of quick saves, but he likes it.
So information on this, there's a text file that you can modify and change the location of where these quick saves will be stored. And then when you come up to the top here and hit this quick save button, it's going to save to that folder. So Paul, did I miss anything? I think I hit everything.
No, I think you did great. The turtle could have been a little better.
Could have been a little better.
I think you did
Could have been a little
good.
better. But what about that Sculptris mode?
That Sculptris one, I gotta say, is amazing. I mean, being a person who I always love to sculpt with subdivisions and moving up moving to low subdivisions to move things around. But now having Sculptris, just changing your draw size does all that for you. So creation is just so much faster, and there's so many different ways to make use of it. It's an amazing feature.
I would like to point out too for Sculptris Pro mode, Joseph was talking about brush size and how your brush size determines your tessellation.
Yeah.
We actually made it, you can actually turn that off too if you want to.
Sure.
So you don't have to use your brush size.
Yeah, and that's what the adaptive size setting I was hitting at was able to do that. So back to you guys at the couch.
Back to us at the couch.
So
Thanks,
we
Joseph Dress. Everyone, wait, everyone give claps for
Yeah,
Joseph
we'll give
Dress.
a
Great.
woo.
Golf claps. Golf claps.
Now you guys got to sit through Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, well, turn your audio down, apparently. I'm loud and obnoxious. Okay, so Solomon, we got to give the winner this wonderful startup kit that we have. This hat that I'm wearing, this shirt I'm wearing,
Yep, so
a swell bottle. By the way, the swell bottle is very unique, people. Every swell bottle that's sold, they plant a tree, number one, which is pretty awesome. Okay, and then this thing's amazing. Like, you can leave this in your car in Southern California.
You should see how many trees I have in my backyard.
Yeah. Dress, we don't want to get into the trees in your backyard.
Like 50 acres.
You have a pond, okay?
Yeah, rub it in, okay? Well, we're
tiny
living in our...
Because we live in concrete palace,
Yeah.
and you actually see green. I get it, all right? So what's great about this bottle, too, is that, honestly, you can leave this in, like, a hot car for, like, days, and it'll still be cold, or something cold, or even hot. I use this every single day. They're really awesome bottles, really great company.
It's a good size, too.
Yeah, and then the hoodie. So, Solomon, do we have a winner?
We do have a winner. So for question number 1, which was, what annual Pixologic event is hosted at the historic television center in the heart of Hollywood? All right, and the answer to that question was the ZBrush Summit, and our winner comes from Guadalajara, Mexico, and his name is Gilbert Gilboy. Is that correct? Gilbert Gilboy.
You're looking at Kyle like he would know because he just typed it.
Yeah, well.
He's not actually talking to him.
You should see the way he typed it. There's like a bunch of capitalized letters in there.
Okay. He's shouting at you like me. So he's shouting like you.
Yeah.
Paul's going to shout.
Gilbert
I'm gonna
Gilboy.
shout in text.
So congrats to Gilbert.
By the way, Kyle's over here off camera.
Yeah, Kyle's off camera over there. So communicate with Kyle Johnstone. Make sure you followed us. He'll send you a direct message and get that prize package to you. So
wait. Before you go into question 2.
Oh, yeah.
Give another one away.
Yeah.
The ZBrush Summit has already been announced. All right. So the ZBrush Summit this year is September 27th through the 30th. Right. So we are taking contestants for the Sculpt Off.
Sculpt Off.
Oh, yeah.
So
Sculpt
get on
Off.
there. That is going to end in June 15th. And this year we did a call out for those that have ever been interested and want to be presenter. You can actually go to the website as well and put in an application for that. That actually ends next month, April 18th.
Gotta get on
this
it
is
quick.
the first time we've done that. That's
the
a
first time
big
we've ever done
thing.
that.
There's plenty of people out there that we don't know how ZBrush is
Yeah.
used. So, please submit. It would be amazing to have some new faces. And
Yeah, we're always looking for different ways ZBrush being used, and so that we can share it with all you, the community, and everything else like that. So
Absolutely.
mark that off your calendar if you haven't already. So question 2, Solomon.
Okay, so we're good for question 2. This again is for the same package. All right, and
Solomon not included.
yeah, I don't come with the package, unfortunately. Get me out of here. No. So the question, and don't forget when you submit your answers, follow us on Twitter first so we can send you a direct message if you win, and submit it with hashtag ZBrush 2018. And of course, complete answers are best. So best answer wins. And Kyle's your deciding factor, so make Kyle happy. So question number 2 is, which new feature of ZBrush 2018 was inspired by Pixologic's Sculptris application? All right, hashtag ZBrush 2018. Good luck. What do we got next from Paul?
Well, I'm going up next.
Paul, actually.
I'm going up next. So we're going to do a little switch real good. Give us
Musical chairs.
musical chairs.
Musical
It takes
chairs.
us about 10 seconds to do it.
Sometimes.
Okay, so we're going to switch to a nice little slideshow of some sculpts that people have been doing with Sculptris Pro and our beta team and many other features. So I'm going to dive in and start showing some other features now. So. All right, I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back. Just like that. I'm on the computer now where dress was. I'm going to dive into what we've done here is we've added a lot more deformers. So one in particular that I really want to start highlighting with, and this is a particular image done by one of our beta testers, Daniel Bausted. is project primitive. So this is a game changer, I think, for a lot of things, the way people will work. At least we hope so. I know it's been for me.
Yeah, it's been, yeah.
I think it's been great. I think a lot of beta testers have been doing some good stuff. So this is something he did for us during beta testing, and he found really great ways of using that. So I'm going to show, this is in Joseph's front yard. This is Joseph's car.
It's a micro machine, though.
It's a micro machine?
Yeah.
For real?
No.
Oh, okay. It's a wannabe micro
It's a
machine.
wannabe
Are those even around anymore?
No. But
They're gone, right? I thought they tried to bring them back.
I was just joking about it was this tiny car, not a big car.
Well,
You're taking it all over the place.
This was done with Project Primitive as well, which is a very cool car. This is something from our current organic ZBrush Sculpt-Off champion, Marlon Nunez. So this is something else that he did within the beta ZBrush 2018. So another piece. And then here's something from Nelson Tai. So what I really want to highlight here is just look at the shapes that you're really going to start to be able to get through here, like things like the fin in the back or the parts in here. This feature that I'm about to show you is really going to open up a lot of stuff for you. So here's another piece from Nelson, right? You got to have your drone. Gotta have it. Gotta have it. Gotta have it. I think I got one as a gift, a little one. I think I've used it once, but they're fun.
You flew it into a tree.
This is something from Pablo Munez that did this little robot guy. And here's something from Michael Popovich that also did. So Michael was kind enough to share the model with us. So I just wanted to pull it up just to give you guys an idea too of looking at some of the shapes and some of the things that he's done in here and the change in the surface. It's really what I want to highlight. And this was done a lot with the Project Primitive. So I want to get into this deformer now and really show you what you can do with it. So I'm going to start with something that actually is in Joseph's backyard. All right, so this wonderful little hippo toy that probably one of his kids has in the backyard. So I know it's a dead joke, but it's funny to us.
It is. You just keep going on
Dad
it.
jokes.
We still like it. All right. So this whole thing actually started from just a sphere and only a sphere. Okay. So I'm going to show you guys just the basics understanding of this, and then I'm also going to pop in and show you how to do something a little bit like this and how quick you can start popping things like this out now with these new deformers. So I'm going to start with this sphere here. Okay. We're going to hit our little W key, which pulls up our Gizmo 3D and our gear. And then there you go. So when we launched 4R8, we had 8 deformers. Now we've got 27 total, right? So this is going to change things a lot that we have here. So I'm going to spend a lot of time with Project Primitive. I'm also going to touch on Remesh by Dynamesh, Remesh by Union, ZRemesher and Decimation, and some other ones here. But I encourage you, once you get ZBrush 2018 in your hands, to really play with Project Primitive because it's a lot of fun and the things that you can do. So let's go ahead and select that. And what we have here is our system popping up with our cones. Okay, don't run away yet. I know there's a lot of cones, okay? But I'm going to show you, I'm going to break this down in a way. So what's going to happen is I'm going to first just start with this purple cone. And you can see when I highlight a cone, like for those that do use ZBrush, you notice that it tells you below here what that does. So this says new surface. So I'm just going to pull that out. It looks like nothing happened. So I'm going to pull out, and you can see I get a sphere. Okay, I'm going to go even higher with this. So what I really want you to focus on is notice the 2 bounding boxes. Okay, so there's a bounding box here on this sphere. So this is the primitive I'm using that I want to project into this primitive. Okay, so this is how I want to start working and being able to come up with shape. So if you notice, these cones, right, are sitting on the little sphere above here, and then there's cones on the major bounding box of the large sphere. So I want you to think about these cones down here as kind of like a global setting controls. So we're going to be using these cones to kind of do global large changes. And these cones up here are going to be doing things specifically to the primitive I have selected. Okay? So what I want to focus on right now first are the cones over here. So you've got an orange cone, which is a modifier, and you got a yellow cone. So you can see this says primitive type 1. So this is going to allow you to not just only have a sphere, but I can pull this cone out and I can turn it into a cube. I can pull the cone all the way down and it's a triangle. Magic is happening right now. I'm having a lot of fun. Okay? So this is a quadratic. So I can have many different shapes just from this first primitive. Okay? I'm going to switch to this second primitive, which is me just grabbing this yellow cone and pulling on it. All right? And you see now I have 2 orange cones. That's because this is a super quadratic. So this is going to give you an insane amount of different shapes that you just weren't able to get before. right? I can start doing some shape like this, and then maybe have a little rounder corners, or make it go to also a diamond more shape. So these cones are going to give you just a lot of different shapes you're going to be able to get that you weren't just able to get before. So I'm going to turn off the line and the fill here for now in our polygrouping, so that way when I'm doing this shapes, you guys can actually see it. Now when I'm adjusting the cones, I can also hold the shift key, and you'll see down here it's snapping in a 0.1 spacing, okay? So let's go to number 3, all right? So number 3, it's beautiful, okay? So this is primitive number 3, and what this actually is can be a cylinder, right? So I've got 2 orange cones for this because I want to maybe the taper in both directions possible, and then maybe I want to turn it more into a square with rounded corners, or go the other way, right? And more in a box that's more going to give me that diamond shape, okay? And then number 4 is our handy dandy torus, right? So we're going to be able to change the inner radius in there, and then we're going to be able to change this to be more of like, you know, a cylinder with a hole going through it, okay? Now, let's go back to primitive 1, okay? And let's bring this back down into our surface, okay? So now you guys have an understanding there are multiple primitives. And this is why we're calling it project primitive, because once I turn off this purple cone, you're going to see now a bulge that's starting to happen here, which is actually projecting into the surface. Okay, so let's do this. Let's hit our gear and let's delete, and let's first make something that's going to be at least a little body shaped to him, because we're all going to make Joseph's hippo now.
Obviously.
I'm pausing for, I don't know why.
Applause.
No, there's no applause. There's no applause.
No one's clapping.
No one's clapping for that one. Right, so what I'm going to do is, again, hit the W key. I'm going to hit my gear, and we're going to go right into the taper, all right? And I'm going to taper this, right? So we got the taper. So I'm going to taper it a little bit like this, and then I'm going to hit our gear again, and I'm going to go to a new one, which is scale, and I'm just going to pull up, and there, egg.
Boom.
Boom. Stream, ZBrush 2018. Cactuses and eggs. Perfect. Just lovely. So obviously I want a body that's changing a little bit, right? So now let's get serious with this project primitive, right? Let's pull up our surface, and I can now use this gizmo and say I want it to be a little bit bigger. I want to maybe play with the blending. How is that going to blend with the surface? So it's really going to give me a lot of capability. So this is going to start being maybe the head that I want to have, right? So I can start adjusting this and figure out, well, do I want the neck to be a little more like that? Nah, I'm going to stick more of something like this, okay? And then what I'm going to do is tell, you know what, I'm happy with that projection that's happening, and I'm going to use this white cone right here to accept that. And you can see the bounding box just changed, right? And the bounding box changed because now it's looking at this whole piece here. Now what's happening with project primitive, it's remembering those settings that I've just been adjusting, and that gives me the capability that I can pull out and get that same sphere projecting. And here I'm going to turn on the fill and the lines here so that when we're seeing, you can see the geometries changing and we're projecting into things here, okay? And this is where I go, you know what, I want it to maybe be a little more squared shape, so I can use this orange cone, and you can see the change now that's happening. And see, we're changing geometry right on the fly that's projecting into this. So we're adding geometry while we're projecting into this. So I think something like that's pretty good. Maybe not like that, and maybe not sticking out so much. Yeah, that,
there you go.
There,
That's looking better.
Yeah, there. That's, now we're hungry, hungry hippos. Now we're talking, right? So I can also, you can see if I zoom in here, you know what, actually let's turn this back on. You can see the geometry that's happening in here. So remember I said these other cones out here that aren't by the actual shape, these are global, right? So this green right here is a tessellation. So I can actually add tessellation and decrease tessellation on the fly of this projection, right? So if I turn this off, you can see that's gotten a lot smoother because that's what I wanted for that front part, okay? And what I'm going to do now is I want to throw some ears on them, okay? So I'm going to hit this gear, and then this is something that I use all the time with Project Primitive. I'm doing a full reset. And what that does is, if you remember, I talked about it remembers the controls that we were doing so that we can, you're going to see later on here when I go to that little speeder, how it's beneficial to remember the stuff, okay? This, I'm just telling the whole deformer to just reset. So we've added a full reset capability here to your deformers. So we didn't have that in 4.8, and now we have it for this version, okay? So I'm going to pull this up and go, all right, that's a sphere. I'm going to I'm going to stick with that for an ear. Let's put that over here, and then we'll bring it down and bring it out, and let's size it down. So I'm using this yellow square, right, which is my sizing, right, and I can pop out an ear right there, right, and again, you can see the quality. Maybe I want to up that, so I go to this green cone up here and add some more tessellation, and it's just getting better quality. And again, this pink cone is going to change the way that is actually going to blend with my guy. All right, now what's fun here is I'm going to zoom in a little bit here and look at these little white dots here. So I can actually clip the projection as well. So I can grab this and start, there's my wonderful ears. Okay, well, the problem is it's Van Gogh. It's got one ear right now. I need a second ear on the other side. So if you notice the cones right here, red, blue, green, okay, which is referring to symmetry. It's referring to your y-axis, your z-axis, and your axis. So all I got to do is take this red one, boom, pop it out, and now I've got two ears. And as I move this one, you can see the other one is moving for me. So it really adds a lot of fun to this piece, okay? But what I also want to show is we're going to go ahead and accept those, right? And I'm going to reset this, do a full reset. And let's bring this back, you know, and I got rid of my nose because I didn't accept it, right? So we'll put that nose back on. There you go. Maybe be a little bit more round.
Perfect.
Like this.
It's perfect.
Perfect. Perfect. I'll go a little bit bigger. I think it needs to be bigger. Yeah, that's better. Right? So then I accept this again. So I'm clicking this white cone here to accept that. Right? So again, a full reset brings me back. And now we're back to having to the default, which is a sphere. So I'm just going to move this over here. And I'm going to say, let's move that here. And you'll notice there's something happening in particular. If I start moving this, you can see it's actually projecting inward instead of outward, right? So we'll move it back in, okay? And let's go smaller. This is like a big, huge thing on them, right? And we'll pull it out, and you can see I can start doing this kind of shape as well, right? So what's happening here is if you, again, look at this yellow square, this is key. If that yellow square is still within the surface of the main piece that we're trying to project into, it's being used as a projection out. The minute I start pulling it away, and you can see it's now not really sitting in the surface at all, that's going to project inward. Okay, so of course I want to have symmetry. And for this, let's use this as some eyes. And you know what, let's drop this a little bit so it's a little bit, you know, stronger of an eyes. Let's add some tessellation to this so the quality of my eye gets a little bit better. And again, I'm going to click this white cone to accept that. And what that has done is, again, it's remembering everything I've done here with the cone. So now if I grab this and we size this down, right? So instead of doing eyes like this, I can keep pulling out. And now I've got a nice little negative that I can put where I want to. And who doesn't want a googly-eyed hippo?
It looks about as good as my turtle.
Now I'm a little questioning our stream. I'm questioning what we're doing.
It's just a base mesh, okay? You're working on it. It's okay,
Yeah.
Paul.
Thank you, Solomon.
Yeah, I got your back, man.
All right. So let's move on to looking at like creating something again, like those images for something that's maybe it's hard surface. Okay. So even this piece, I started with a sphere. Okay. And I'm going to show you why I started with a sphere and what's really cool about this project primitive. Okay. So I'm going to hit the W key, and again I'm going to click on that little handy dandy gear. I'm going to click on project primitive. Now I've been messing with project primitive, and I know that. You see the gear is also orange now, it's active. So again, I'm going to say, you know what, let's do a full reset because I want to manipulate this now. And what I want to do is I want to convert the sphere into a cylinder. So I know over here, if you remember when we were talking, I have different primitives. So the first one is a quadratic. So we can take it from a sphere to a cube to a diamond. I'm going to go with number 3, which is a cylinder, okay? And I'm going to want this staying at 0.5 and this staying at 0.5. So now if I just enlarge this, you'll see that all it's doing is projecting a cylinder into the sphere, okay? So we'll turn on polyframe here so you guys can see what's happening, right? And you can see it's got a little bit of that bulge in the sphere, right? So if I turn down this blending, I just get a cylinder. So we're literally taking a sphere, turning it into a cylinder. And not only that, I don't want it positioned this way. So this leads me now to this blue cone over here. So remember, this yellow cone is the actual primitive I'm using. And now this cone is saying, what axis do I want this primitive to go along? The Z, the X, or the Y? So notice down below, right below my, right here, when I hover over that, you can see 1 is X, 2 is Y, 3 is Z. So obviously I want that along the Y. And then this is what I want to start with my default shape. So once again, I'm happy with it. I'm going to hit that white cone. I'm good to go. I'm pleased. I've just turned a sphere into a cylinder. Now what I want to do is before I go to another actual deformer, I'm going to size this down a little bit. All right, just give it some little more flat shape that I want. Then I'm going to go to an extender, okay, and I'm just going to pull this apart. And then now I'm starting to get that basic shape I'm starting to want to have for this particular ship. And so what I want to do is, if you notice, we'll get in closer here. The geometry that we have here compared to here is very different, right? In the sense that there are more spans going across, so there's more density going across. So I'm just going to grab this white cone, and I'm just going to start adding more density here, right? So that way I can have geometry here to use for projection purposes. And I'm going to take this yellow cone and turn off the actual creasing. I don't want any creasing to happen here. So I've got that basic shape, so I'm happy with that. And then I'm going to switch to deformer. Now here's something else that we've done. So deformer came with ZBrush 4R8. And deformer has the capability to become a soft or hard deformer. So what we've done is we've ripped those both out of the deformer and made them their own separate deformers now. So you can have which is in essence most people are used to, a lattice, which is probably the terminology used, or what is FFD? What is FFD, right? Okay, leave me hanging.
You know, sorry, I was
no, it's fine,
responding to
guys.
the chat.
It's fine. You keep going.
This is what they do. This is why, everybody, this is why I got to talk loud. Because otherwise,
we're asleep.
No one's listening to me. Right? So deformer hard and deformer soft. But I'm fine with just the regular deformer, okay? I'm going to go ahead and look straight at this. And this is a actually thing that I really like that we've added in 4R8, which is being able to unmask things with really one click. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling out a mask, right? And now I'm just holding the Alt key. And because whatever's in that box, that stays unmasked and everything else gets masked. So now that I have these points here, let's turn off our poly frame here. And now let's just bulge that out and get that nice shape that maybe I want to have.
That looks
and
good.
a nice rounded shape in there, right? So I'm happy with that. And now I need a flat back end. So I'm just going to go back into my deformers here and go to flatten. And I'm going to grab this right here and flatten that right up. So, but what I like to do as well, so we'll turn these back on for you, is use this yellow cone. So this is changing it from, in essence, a clip brush to a slice brush in a way for those that use ZBrush or artists using ZBrush right now. So I want it to actually slice across so I get that geometry I want. And see, and I can keep adjusting and stopping where I want things to be. All right, so that's good enough, right? So let's get to project primitive. And you'll notice, right, remember I kept saying that it's remembering the last time we used project primitive. The last time we used it, we converted a sphere into a cylinder. And you can see I've got the cylinder shape still selected and all the other adjustments that I made, okay? I'm going to, again, let's start from scratch again because I'm not sure where I'm going, all right? So I'm going to do a full reset, right? That's going to give me back this spherical shape. You know what I want, though, is I want a cube, okay? And I want to start pulling this over to this side here, right? And I want it to happen on the other side, so I'm going to say let's be symmetrical, okay? And I don't want any blending right now to happen. I just want to be a nice harsh cube shape. And mind you, again, this is projecting into the original geometry. This is not an additional piece of mesh that's being added. We're projecting in the original. So I'm going to push that down, and you can see we start getting that. And I'm just going to now just start resizing this and positioning this maybe where I want that to be. Maybe I want to be somewhere like that. You know, from the top, let's go a little bit wider. Yeah, there. Happy little trees.
Happy little trees.
Happy little trees, right? And then I'm going to pull on this and pull it out. And you can see we're just projecting further and further. So here, I'm going to turn on this again. And you can see this is all connected. It's all welded together. And you can see what's happening with our geometry as we're doing these projections. So beta testers, a lot of them wanted to see polygrouping. So just a note, you guys can turn off your lines. You can only look at polygroup. I know Mr. Joseph Dress loves this mode. You can turn off your polygrouping and then only have the fill off. It's your world. You do what you want. There's all these options here.
You do
for
you.
Okay?
You do you.
You be you. Okay? So this is pretty harsh. Like, it's not exactly what I want, right? So when I start putting the blend on, right, it's trying to blend the cube in. That's not really what I'm looking for. I'm kind of getting a little bit of one. So let's stay kind of like a harsh cube. And what I now want to introduce you to are the cones over here as well again. So you have a blue cone, a red cone, and a green cone. So of course, those are relating to X, Y, Z. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to change the opacity along the Y and the opacity along the Z. So watch over here, not here. Here, not here. All right? I'm going to grab this cone, all right? And I'm going to pull it down. You can see I can get a nice taper now starting to happen. So now I'm getting this starting to happen is what I'm looking for. Now I also want it, we'll look at the more towards the top. I want it happening along the Z. And now you can see I can start playing with getting the taper where I really want these wings to be at. And because we're blending and projecting in, you're getting a really nice approach here. And again, now I can still turn on this blend mode if I want and keep adjusting this. But I'm going to put a little rotation in there, and oh no. Oh no.
You broke it.
I broke it. So again, the beauty here is this little white circle here. I can say I don't want that projection going all the way through on both sides of the X axis. So I can just click this and I can get rid of that. And in fact, you can hold the shift key and do both sides at the same time. And that's going along the X axis. And then there you go. So now I got those wings where I wanted them. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm pretty stoked. So I'm going to white cone that, which accepts it. You see the bounding box change because now it's looking at the whole little ship here that I'm creating. So I've been doing a lot of changes with this, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a full reset. Right? I know I'm going to want symmetry on, so we're going to throw that back on. And let's start bringing this over. So you can see, well, this is just projecting into this surface. That's not really what I want, okay? So I'm going to throw on this purple, again, cone, and you can see here, this is almost acting like an insert mesh brush, but it's the deformer doing it. So I'm not having to leave to go to another brush to just, if I want to add now a spherical shape at the end of this, right? And you know what? I want to have it be a little more stretched like that, okay? And I want to use these cones, these little whites, and then cut that and cut that back and maybe put a little more stretch. And there you go. I got the start of those little rocket boosters I'm going for. So the difference here with the purple cone is I'm not actually projecting the shape into the existing. I've actually separated and made it its own. So I'm pretty, again, excited about this. So I'm going to click that white cone that accepts this. So I'm going to drop the purple cone, again, all the way back down to having the blend mode be back, right? Because I want to start manipulating and playing things here in the back. So you can see as I move, we're projecting now. This is, again, projecting into the shape. So I'll turn on this so you guys can see the interaction that's happening here, okay? And what I want to do is actually switch to the third one, which is your cylinder. You know what? I'm also going to say, you know what? Let's add some more tessellation. And you can see all the tessellation I can add to this whole mode here, right? So now we'll turn this off so we can take a look at this. I'm going to say, let's size this down. I don't want any blending at all, okay? And I want to use this cone to put a little taper in there. Maybe something like that. And we'll go a little bit bigger now. So you can see I can keep adjusting this where I feel like, hey, that's what I'm looking for. I'm pretty happy with that. And this is, again, why I'm going to show you again why we're remembering all these adjustments I've made. Because the minute I do this white cone and I accept it, I still have that tapered shape, right? So I can pull this out and start using this as a negative, right? And then start dialing it down, and then there you go. I'm creating now that back portion that I've always wanted in the back of my ship. Beautiful.
Always.
I've always wanted it.
Always wanted it.
I've always wanted it. Right, and then now I'm going to, again, white cone that for that's the accept. I'm going to push this to the front, right? And you can see I can use this exact same thing to project through there. But let's try something a little different here, okay? Let's go to object number 4, which is our torus. This is really cool to be able to do this. Let's stretch this out a little bit more, so using that blue cone, right? And I can play with this, but what's really great is using these. So I can change that radius that's happening, right? I can make it be more a stronger or a softer blend that's happening through there. So I can really start doing some fun stuff with this, right? And then I can say, oh, I want it to be bigger, right? And now it's bigger, right? Now I got something like this in the front, and because I'm using a torus now, okay? And then you just continue this process, and then I made another torus, and then I wanted that torus to come across in the back here and started using that to start projecting here, right? And well, and now it's too big, so I shrunk it down, and then I start projecting that in there.
Can you show how you can tessellate it again to get rid of the kind of edge?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm going to turn on the line again, all right? And I'll zoom in here a little bit. I need my one green cone. Okay, so you can see the tessellation that we're getting. So there's a green tessellation cone over here. And you can see it says tessellation 0.00089. So by adjusting this, you can see pulling it in and out gives you more or less tessellation, right? So it's on the fly changing. So if you want something a little more sharp, you absolutely can start doing that if you want to, right? So that's all we're going to be doing. And this is on the fly. You can see it's changing, but when you let go, the tessellation updates because it's making for a faster interactive ability, okay? So let's accept that, all right? And again, I'm going to full reset it. And I just want to highlight again, we can use this to be a negative, project inward, or a positive, project out, right? And we can stretch the shapes, and you can really see how it's projecting into those, right? Maybe make it a little bit wider here. And again, grab this white dot and come across here. And you can see in this case, I don't like the tessellation that I'm getting in this little window I'm trying to make. So this is why I start maybe adding tessellation here, right? And then now maybe I start playing with the blend a little bit. And then now I start to say, you know what? Let's play with some opacity. And you can see what's changing here. So I'll turn off the line for now so you can see the shape. So again, I'm grabbing this red cone right here, right? And I'm changing the opacity. And you can see those adjustments I made, and I can change the opacity this way, right? And I can do all three axes if I want, right? And now my little window or little part is happening through there, right? And I can keep adjusting the height of this because I've been playing with this opacity.
And to preview too, you can easily tab back to draw. Just using draw, turning Gizmo off, you can just go back and kind of check it out and then go back if you're sort of trying to see the overall shape, which I always love to do.
Yeah, I'm just switching right now between the hotkeys Q and W. So W is giving us move mode, which is giving us our 3D Gizmo. The Q, right, is giving us draw mode, right? And then when you're in the move mode, you can see that my Gizmo is still orange because it knows that I've been using project primitive right now. So then I can bounce back to even that project primitive even and go back and start adjusting this as well, right? So this is pretty much project primitive allows you to do. It allows you crazy blending now, crazy shapes. And the key thing here, everybody, I haven't been switching a lot of brushes. I've been staying right within this same menu and then just using the cone capability to allow this. And I also want to point out, I'm going to turn on the fill, I'm making new polygroups also with every projection. So that's going to help me down the line for polygrouping stuff. And there's more coming down the line here for polygrouping. But you have the capability to turn that off. So the blue cone there that I'm highlighting right here can turn off polygrouping. So I can say no polygrouping on that projection, or yes, give me polygrouping on that projection. So you can even turn that on and off. Okay? So I want to continue looking at deformers and go down another path. So I want to switch to this deformer where live Boolean is something we obviously launched with ZBrush 4R8. So the way the system's working, for those that have been using this, you're going to have a bunch of subtools, right? And you'll have a bunch of start groups. So this is a non-destructive system in the fact that I'm going to want this to say, hey, give me the results of these subtools and these start groups. So I'm going to come down here, go to my Boolean. I'm going to say I want smooth subdiv capability, make Boolean mesh. It's going to process now, and it's looking through all my subtools, and in this case, it's looking at the start groups, right? And then coming through, and it's going to create a whole new tool. So here's the new tool. So you'll notice the fan worked out right, okay? But this piece didn't work out right? Because this was its one subtool. So here, we'll turn off, and you can see with live Booleans on the fan we get. So all I did is told it, convert that for me. So for us, and I know for a lot of you artists, when you were working with live Booleans, you wanted to have the capability to just only do sections at a time. So now you're going to be able to do that. So I'm going to select this one subtool, right? And I want you to take note of my polygrouping. So there's white polygroups, and here I'll turn on line so you can see, right? There's some white pieces, and then there's pieces that are colored, right? So the white pieces are telling ZBrush to use as a subtract, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the W key, right? I'm going to hit on that gear, and I'm just going to say remesh by union. So what we've done is we've taken that code from the Boolean system and now made it an actual deformer. And then we get the result of that. And now it's still within the same exact tool. So it's not creating a new tool for us. We're staying right in there. So this creates a very smooth atmosphere or workflow for you to be able to maybe collapse one start group and then just use a deformer. So I'm not going to just stop there, though. I want to keep playing with this, and we're going to turn on the line art. And you can see, obviously, the results. We're getting triangles where there was cutting and booleans and intersections happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to now Remesh by Dynamesh. Okay? You're going to see that there's 3 cones popping up now right here. And again, when you hover over the cones, we're going to tell you what they are doing right below down here, right? So you can see target polygon count. This is your smoothness, so if you want smoothness, okay? And this is, do you want projection, yes or no? So we're pretty much taking Dynamesh out of the UI and made it a deformer. Now, what's pretty nice about this, which I know a lot of people wanted, this white cone is going to be huge for you. This is actually going to set to a close target polygon count, right? So if I start pulling this up and say, I'll give me something around like 23,000. Right? Boom, there, it's Dynamesh. And see, I'm at about 26,000, right? And I can go, that's not enough. All right, let me go more. Let's go maybe closer to 100,000 polygons. Boom, there, it's done. So now I'm closer to 100,000 polygons, right? And then I can keep going up if I want to, right? But then this is the beauty of this. I can start getting now, instead of sitting there trying to figure out the polygon count by resolution, you're using the cone now to give more of a specific number, closer number that you want. But I can say, I've gone too far, and I can come all the way back down if I want to something in the 20,000, and it updates. So this is going to allow me to continue to go down, or I can go back up if I want, right? Because ZBrush is remembering what the state was before we started using this deformer. So we have that capability to bounce around, go back and forth. So this has created a nice way to work. Again, I'm not going to another menu. I'm just sticking right in front of my UI here, in front of the document. I'm clicking on a gear and selecting the deformer I want, right? So let's switch to Remesh by ZRemesher. So again, you've got cones here. You've got a white cone that has a target polygon count. And then you have green, blue, and red, which is for what? I'm going to hold for pause. Okay, of course, you're right. That's your X, Y, Z, right? So if I want symmetry capability, I put on the X. Now, what we're doing different with this deformer is because I've told X symmetry, when I go to make this polygon count and I say, hey, I want maybe 20,000 polygons, what we're actually doing is putting half of it at around that 20,000 polygon mark, and then we're mirror and welding in essence and copying over the other piece for you. So I'm going to be more probably in the 50,000 polygon number because I've told it I want symmetry. So I'm telling it really pay attention to only half of it, and then make sure you give me the other half to be exactly the same, because I want the exact same geometry on either side. So you can see I was around 48,000 polygons. So of course, if you don't want symmetry, you can turn off symmetry, and then you can go back. So I can say I want less, so I can say give me around 8,000, which is going to give me probably more towards the 20,000. So there's no way to be exact with this number in the sense the fact that you got to remember ZRemesher has some algorithm, some special code to it where it's analyzing the mesh and figuring things out, okay? But any setting that you have turned on in here, okay, for your ZRemesher is going to be remembered, okay? So with that said, just like Joseph, I too enjoy printing, okay? So this is a gorilla sculpt that I started working on for Sculptris Pro when we were in beta testing, and I wanted to kind of print this out and make it a statue, okay? So you can see that I have this colored gorilla. So he's one polygroup. And if you're looking, I've got, I had to put the words gorilla just in case nobody would ever know that's a gorilla. All right? And then I've got this inner portion that I want to use to hollow out the surface so I can save on material. So then now all I can do is I can hit that W key, click on here, and then I'm going to click now this Remesh by Union. So while it's doing that, I actually have the gorilla here. Right here. So this was done by Carbon 3D, which is a printing company. It's amazing. Have the clip art. So this is about, I would say, 12, 13 inches in here, and you're getting the details that you want through this. And even notice I've got the hollowing out happening there, right? So I was just using this deformer after I was done doing all my sculpting and using Sculptris Pro to do this, right? I wanted to have this capability so I didn't waste so much material. And of course, gorilla.
People really like that online, that you labeled it.
Yeah?
I'm just proud you spelled it right.
It's important. Yeah, Russ is very happy I spelled it right. He made me do this. Did I spell it right? Because, yeah. All right, thanks. I'm an artist. Okay? It's not a spelling bee. It's an artist bee. Okay? So, I'm proud of my little gorilla. Okay,
It looks great, man.
Thanks. Thanks for the pity grates. Okay, so you can notice now that a deformer's done, okay, you've got that hollowed out, and I've got the gorilla. Okay, just in case no one knew. All right. So let me show you what I was kind of doing and thinking about this as I was sculpting. So this is the gorilla, and this is where I was at. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to finish it because Joseph told me to be done. So,
Paul, you're done with that one. You're gonna stop doing
Finish
it.
this, Paul.
he said, "Can you finish it?" So I definitely want to do more details on him. So I'm not happy with the amount of details I have. I want to start, especially work on the face. So let's turn on again the polyframing, and you can see where I've spent more time sculpting with Sculptris Pro. So clearly, I've in the face and a little bit in the chest and along in here in the armpits and the delts a little bit. But what I want to do is I kind of want to use this feature that we have, which is Sculptris Pro, but in a different way, okay? So I'm going to mask off the front of this face because this is important to me, all right? For maybe I want to put some more details in here, number one, or maybe I'm going to show you even, okay, I maybe like the whole body and form and shape. You know, my art directors come to me and pat on the shoulder, okay, the form's right, but the face, no, right? So I saw it popping up when we were talking in geometry. There is now a new menu called Tessimate. That's right, we make up words. Okay, and what we've done is we've wrapped out Sculptris Pro and we've put it in the geometry palette. So not only do you have this capability in the brushes, but you have it in the actual system itself. You can do whatever you want. And just like Joseph was highlighting, this is tessimating and decimating at the same time. I want to be clear, that's the difference between Sculptris and Sculptris Pro also. Besides all the brushes that you can use, is we're also decimating at the same time you're sculpting, okay? So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to say, you know, this face isn't so good, right? So I'm going to say, let's go here and let's maybe put it at 3, a slider of 3. And you can see I'm actually changing the density only of that face, right? So I can keep going up and let's go to 5, let's go to 8, and now it's completely gone. And now this is when Joseph said, that's a much better sculpt.
It looks so much better.
Much better, right? But just like the deformers, right? I've lost my sculpt. So what's beautiful is I can go backwards and bring back the sculpt. So it's remembering. So this is kind of a non-destructive system as well. I can remember the beginning stage, and then I can say, well, we were at 1, so this is the density I get, and I can say, now give me some more, 0.6, right? And now I'm getting super dense in this face, super dense, right? And then now, this is giving me the capability to see locally distribute the polygons. So I found this extremely useful. So Dress showed you with Decimation Master, if you remember when he went in here and he talked about these presets, that's a great way to use Sculptris Pro. As you keep adding more polygons, you can actually decimate something down. You can take it like Joseph did. His was around 900,000 points. But I want to emphasize this active points. This is points. That's not polygons, right? So that's just vertex order. So when you scroll over, you can see this is more, pretty much double that number. It's sitting at 565,000 triangles, right? So when Dress's little, which was partially inspired by Dark Crystal, I saw it come through. He was inspired by it. You know, he was sitting around 890,000 active points, which he was sitting around close to 1.9 million polygons, right? And he used Decimation Master to bring it down. I'm doing the flip now. I'm locally deciding where I only want tessellation to happen. But I don't have to just do this locally. If I don't have any mask on here, I can obviously just start pulling the slider up, and now I've got some kind of base mesh. So see this as a way, you might have got a generic shape or a human head that you always use. This is a great way to just load that head, tessimate, start from scratch again, and start going. So that's what the Tessimate does. And I also want to highlight that it's also symmetrical. So you can actually turn on X, Y, Z. So what that means is you'll have the same tessellation on both sides. When you start going, you can see there's a center line now, and you have symmetrical geometry on either side. And like I can keep bringing it back, and I can bring back that beautiful, beautiful gorilla. Just gorgeous, just gorgeous. Okay? So that was the way I started using Sculptris Pro. and with the Tessimate. I was using it as a local way to just, instead of just smoothing things out to get more tessellation, just use that option right there. So the next thing I want to move on to is something that was done by Vitaly Bolkarov years ago, and he was kind enough to share this with me and allow me to use it. So I said we're going to be doing some polygroup and stuff, right? So this, I'm telling you right now, I'm going to pause for a moment. If you don't use polygroups, why? Why not? Okay? I can't, every sculpt I do, I'm always thinking polygrouping, because there's just so many things we do with polygroups that allows one-click solutions. So we know this
because it has your name in it.
Well, he's pointing out specifically the crease PG, which is the crease Paul Gabry. Not really, it's crease polygroups, right? So now when I'm working for something like this, especially if maybe I want to remesh this, or maybe I want to do panel looping, or there's just something, I don't want to sit here and try to have to mask out and get polygroupings, like selecting out pieces. So what we've done in the polygroup menu is we have been doing a little fun here with this polygroups by normal. So that's always been there, but if you notice, there's now a little dot there. Okay, so look up here, look up here. This is important stuff.
It started.
Lisa needs braces moment for me, for those that ever watch my stream. Lisa needs braces. Okay, so that little dot is telling you there's another algorithm attached to this code. Wherever you see that little dot, that means there's another algorithm on the button. You got to understand that anywhere in ZBrush. Okay, we're not just putting those dots there because we want to make it rain dots. Okay, so if I open this up, it's now got it open. So this is a whole new algorithm we've written specifically for groups by normals. I'm going to keep the max angle at 30. And for out there, anybody that knows the movie that's look up here, go ahead, put that in chat, you know. And for anyone that gets that right, you got it right. Kyle will send you something nice.
Give him the gorilla statue.
All right. So let's click this now and see what happens. Let's group it by normals. Magic happens. Boom. Right? You've got now polygrouping. And I've got polygrouping in the sections with just one click. This is already starting me off in a very quick workflow, to the sense of if I even switch to something like the Gizmo 3D, and I'm going to hold down the control key and tap on this yellow one, and you'll see that every other polygroup is masked off here. I'll turn off the polyframing, except that front piece. Now, we've also added something else to the Gizmo 3D, which always scares Trust. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hold the control key and click on this arrow. So this is extruding, but watch this. I'm going to let go control, and I can get equal extrusions happening now. So what we've added the capability with the Gizmo 3D is you can get equal extrusions happening. And what's nice about this, I'm going to clear this mask, and let's go over to this polygroup over here. That is being stored in the Gizmo. So even on this other side that I didn't make it happen, right? I can still, you know, play with this and get different types of extrusions happening throughout this whole thing, right? So I can start manipulating it and changing it and start continuing this. And now I'm just continuing these extrusions. So you're just remembering it actually in memory, right? So now we've got beautiful thickness to, I'm sorry, Vitaly, if you're watching, ruining this beautiful piece by Vitaly. But what's also nice, if I don't have any mask, you guys can also duplicate, but then you can equally duplicate across.
What?
So now I have just told it to duplicate across that way. So now if maybe I want to go up, right, holding control, clicking on this, and say, that distance is good. Now I'm going to keep duplicating the exact same distance going across there. And that's being stored to the Gizmo. So I can continue that like I was doing with the extrusion. So that's some little bonus thing that's been added to the Gizmo 3D.
You're making a lot of people's lives happier.
Am I?
Chat. Yeah, that one's nice.
Tears.
It's just the little things,
Tears.
you know.
I love that one's a nice one, but project primitive.
No, I mean, it's
always the little stuff.
A lot of hype for that. A lot of hype for that.
I like it. I like it. I have found a lot of use for it for sure, in a lot of hard surface things I'm doing. Just quickly mask stuff off, boom, extrude. I don't need, and again, guys, think about this workflow I'm doing. I don't even need to really touch any menus right now. Really, I could stay within the little la Gizmo world, right, and just use deformers like I was doing and doing all this. Okay, so polygrouping. Okay, that's great. I can click one button, get the polygroups, but that has limitations, right? There's only so much it's going to be able to do with a one-click solution. So we need to expand upon this. We need to allow you as an artist to really adjust your polygroups and do what you want, okay? So I'm going to switch to Joseph's closet, okay, which is this handy dandy boot, right? So I'm going to look at him. I think it's in his wife's closet, this boot.
I don't think she'd wear anything that looks like that. Sorry.
She won't wear it. Maria, if you're watching. All right. So apparently it's in Joseph's closet.
It could be my closet.
It could be in your closet.
Could be in my closet.
It's like a rain boot then for rain.
It
right?
is.
Okay.
Stomping in the mud.
So let's turn on our poly grouping, right? So Joseph just took really quickly, just mashed out this, and he started using, putting little streaks in here where he wanted some stepping or some, in essence, sections to the boot where there's different leather, right? And I want to clean this up a little bit, but I want to use polygroups as a strength to clean it up. So I'm going to come over here to my Z plugs. We're going to dock this. And I saw this being popped up. That's right. There's a new plugin, which is actually a new feature that's called Polygroup It. Say it with me 5 times. Type it in the chat 5 times. Polygroup it, polygroup it, polygroup it, polygroup it, polygroup it, polygroup it.
It has your name again and again.
Paul.
This is not on purpose, by the way. I have no control over this. I only get to name everything in ZBrush. Okay, so what I want to do is let's turn on our polygrouping. And let's go ahead and click that button. And what we're going to do is launch a whole separate application, actually. And this application is using your video card. So this is GPU. ZBrush itself is still completely CPU, but this particular Polygroup It application is GPU. It's using your video card. Now, to move around in here, it's the same as that you're used to in ZBrush. So if you're a part of the right-click army, yes! Right? You have the right click. If you're Joseph and Ofair, all right, you can have your alt capability, which I still don't understand why you're not converting to our army with the right click.
Yeah, I'm officially a part of the right click army.
Oh,
Right?
man. I don't know if we can
It's
sit on the
so
same
much.
couch.
It's so painful to watch you sometimes play in Zoom and navigate. Like, I don't just have tears. Like, my stomach literally turns in knots just watching. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tap on the boot, and you can see I got this little purple little dot with a slider. So watch this. I'm going to start pulling the slider, and bam! That's right, it's loud. Turn your speakers down. You can't stop me. I got to be loud. I come from a family where you got to be loud. So now I'm actually growing a polygroup, but this is doing something very specific. It is actually looking at the surface change and clipping the polygroup. So you can see it's trying to clip it where Joseph's sculpt is happening. Now, what's fun about this is I can even continue to grow this polygroup. So I can grow it out. I can shrink it. And for a bonus penny, what is the shortcut to that? Anybody visibility? Anybody? 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 That's right. Control-Shift-X is grow. Control-Shift-S is shrink. So it's the same thing as visibility in ZBrush. Now, if you're other people, you want to use the arrow keys, the arrow up key, and the arrow down key will also do that. So I'm pretty happy with this. Let's just adjust that. Yeah, there. That looks good. Now watch. All I got to do is click again, click again, click again. And now I'm just tapping. And this is just analyzing the surface and putting polygroups wherever I want them. So even if with this green one selected, let's zoom in a little bit here, right? If I start growing, you can see it's actually not growing past the other polygroups as well. That's nice. That's new, right? And what that's doing is using the grow and shrink, but I'm not allowing overlapping of the polygroups to happen, right? So, and I can undo those if I want to and say, oh, just throw another dot on there. Yeah, there we go. If I don't like this, right, I can hold the Alt key and double tap to delete my seeds. I can say, you know what, I prefer the green seed to be up here, right? I can actually move it back and forth. So I just click and I can move my seeds. And so you're now having the capability to move those. Okay, I don't like that one, right? And then now I made the green one that, and let's go here and here. Okay, I don't like the green there, right? So I want to maybe select a different one, this, and I'm going to copy it. Oh, copy, paste, polygroups. For those that are ZBrush world, I should be seeing a ton of faces and claps right now. Okay? I just literally showed you click and dragging, moving polygroups around.
Somebody said they wanted a polygroup farm, so you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of positive feedback. From
So
the
I'm just
polygroups.
clicking and copying. All right? I'm glad.
Somebody
I'm
also said polyboot.
All right? So now I'm just going to keep clicking in spots and say I want another polygroup there, I want another one there, I want another one there, and let's just throw another one there and throw another one in the back. Now, I've got this wonderful rainbow bright boot, okay? I can do this, boom, filled. All the polygroups are filled. So there's no overlapping because I don't have overlap on. And what I've done is I told each polygroup to extend, and when you meet each other, stop. In the name of polygroup, before you overlap. Don't try to figure me out, people. I'm just having fun with you on the stream. Right? So all I'm doing is turning extend on and off. So the shortcut is Control F, which is the fill inside of ZBrush. And then Shift F puts your points on. So that's in essence, because Polygroup It is looking at vertex points. So that's why it's not showing you faces, it's showing you points, okay? Now that I've got this, I'm thrilled. I'm so happy. Hit OK. Boom! There you go. New polygroups. All ready to go, right? Now.
Turn off that line.
Joseph and his lines. Gonna have the line on. Right? So you can see the colorful and you know what? It looks very Easter-like. So
Easter boot.
it's the Easter boot, okay? So you can see the same polygroup on the bottom, right? So what I want to do is, I want that same thing actually on these two parts right here. So I want this polygroup and this polygroup to be the same. So I'm going to mask off the other polygroups and bring everything back. So what I'm doing is I'm using masking now as, wait, don't touch that part, okay? Coming from NPR, wait, don't, what is it? Wait.
Don't touch that part. That's what I think they're going to change it.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is send this back to Polygroup It. And what's great about this, because I've made no geometrical change, I've made no sculptural change, I've done nothing to the vertex order. Polygroup It remembers the last time I was in here, and it's making sure the polygroups are not lost. But number two, right, the masking comes over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate symmetry. Okay, I'm going to do that right up here. I can hit the X key for X symmetry, Y for Y, Z for Z, so forth and so on. And I'm going to click here, and I'm going to start expanding that, and then there you go. You've got now a seed over here, which that's the seed we can actually click and select and move around. This seed you can see is being rendered very different, right? That's just the symmetrical seed. And I'm going to go ahead and grow that out. So now it's butting up against all my masked areas. I hit OK. It comes back. Boom, right? I don't know why I use boom. Just let it go. And then now those are the same polygroups, right? So I can continue to edit and play with these as much as I want to, right? So this is great to be able to click and move and copy and paste. We want to do a continue expanding upon this and think what other ways can we create polygrouping even at a faster pace. So my man, James Kane, if you're watching, this is amazing work. This is by James Kane during beta testing. I love his approach and his sculpting. He's just got a beautiful touch. His sculpts are amazing. I really love the helmet. It was really had like an elegant movement to it, and then offsetting towards that rough face that he put on this guy. So let's take a look at this helmet that he made. All right. So he's got this helmet, and you can see the polygrouping, right? So you're using polygroup to get those polygroups, right? So you just quickly put in some sculptural detail. I want to use paint, right? So this is going to be a lot like, for those that are 80s kids like myself, paint by numbers, man. That's all that's the best way I can give it to you, all right? Or it's a coloring book. Just think coloring book, okay? Right now, my daughter just colors everything, which is great. But you're going to stay within the line. So what that means is wherever you got these polygrouping black borders, you're now going to be able to get a polygroup in there, polygroup in there. You get a polygroup. You get a polygroup. Everybody gets a polygroup. Everybody gets a polygroup. You beat me to it. All right? Why not? All right? So I'm going to turn on polyframe. All right? So you guys can see what's happening. I've just painted in this. And guys, let's think, and ladies, let's think about this. We do have Sculptris Pro now. And you can paint with Sculptris Pro, okay? And paint this stuff, these lines out if you wanted to as well. So what I'm going to do now is come back up to polygroup, and I'm going to hit this button, polygroup it from paint. So let's go ahead and let that drive the force, and then drive the force. What am I, Star Wars now? And
Drive the force.
There you go. You've got polygroups just like that, right? So each one of those sections have their own polygroup. Now, I want to bring this another level. Let's up a level. You can see that my polygons are a little low, right? And it's not that clean for me because my polygon count is not at a dense enough capability. I don't care. So I'm going to come down here now and go to polygroup it. I'm sorry, polygroup it. Deformations. I just like saying polygroup it. Right? So right here, polish by groups. This is probably one of my favorite features in ZBrush. Mm-hmm. I know Dress and Solomon use it a lot. Guys, you see this little dot? What does that mean? What does that mean? Look up here. Okay, that means you have another algorithm. So I'm going to open that because I want this to be really strong, and you can see how clean now I just made those polygrouping, right? And then let's go another step here, right? And let's go to edge loops and let's panel loop that. So look at that. We just, with just simple painting, made some very nice panels here. And this is all welded and still and attached even as well. So if I wanted to, you know, expand upon this and come down here and throw a little polish to the wind, oh, there we go. Now we're talking, right? It's that easy, people. It's that easy. Okay? Just saying, it's that easy. All right, so we didn't just stop there. Okay? And I'm sorry I get loud. I just get excited, darn it, okay? So well, not me, really. This is more Joseph Drust doing. For those that love this, you can thank Joseph Drust, okay? So Nacho Orisco, and Nacho, if you're watching, hopefully I pronounced that correct. We all know me by now. I don't pronounce names correct. So he's a jeweler that uses ZBrush, and this is a piece that he made during beta testing. It's beautiful. I really love it. And this part right here, right, thinking about the way to do that. So he took the idea of, why don't I just use polygrouping to help drive this to me, all right? So I'm going to go up to the piece that he used. It's a very top subtool, and we're going to turn everything else off. And then this is what we've got, right? So this gives us the capability, right, to paint this out. And something I want to add, you know what, just because we're here, I want to add to this. So for me, I really like this workflow because you can see the two colors, black and white. I can flip it to a black, and I can paint with black, right? So I can go to a smaller draw size if I want to, and yeah, right? It makes it very easy. Nacho, I'm sorry, I'm ruining your ring. But I can switch to a V, and then I can erase what I don't want, right? So in essence, I can use black and white. So this system is only looking at pure white and pure black, okay? Wherever there's the pure black, it's saying, hey, whatever's inside that shelf, coloring books, that's what's going to get a new polygroup. But we're going to do one more thing. Forget just that. Let's also polygroup all the black lines. So that's what this other option, border, is. So let's click that. Let's let polygroup run. It's done. Just like that. Let's turn off the paint. And bingo. Yeah, I switched it up. No BAMs. Right? So now, not only do we have separate polygroups for these sections that he took the time to paint out, but this whole part now that was black is its own polygroup. And then, simple thing now, because I can visually look at this, again, you guys see why I'm saying polygroups are so powerful and important to use? I'm going to come down here now to an extract, and I'm going to say default it, extract it. Yeah, go ahead. Folia, boom, accept. There you go. I'm done. I got that piece, right? So looking at Nacho's original piece, there's his original, so we'll turn this all back on and all of his paint. This is how he started making this surface happen on his ring, right? It's just simple painting out and giving yourself some polygroups. So that's it for me. There are many things, though, that we still need to discuss, so don't go anywhere, all right? We got some things to cover, but I'm going to hand it back to the gentleman on the couch to do some more prizes.
Man, that was a lot. Can we take like a 5-minute breather on that? Whew. going in. I loved it. The chat, I think everybody's very excited about all that stuff. So we've got to give away the second prize.
Which is all the swag, right?
Yeah, the last little bit of swag we got from Kyle's starter swag kit. And, oh yeah, let's see. So we got the winner.
We got to get the winner.
The winner of prize number 2. Let's throw the question out. The question was, which new feature of ZBrush 2018 was inspired by Pixologic's Sculptris application? And it was Sculptris Pro. Big surprise. So the winner for this prize is, I believe, coming from Japan. I think we're not quite sure. It goes by the handle ZeroLemon. So congratulations. We'll be sending this information. We're sending this to you. I think Kyle's working on
Kyle's
getting
going to bring it
information.
up. Yep.
So we've got one more big prize to give away. This is the big one for the day.
Uh-oh.
Should we go ahead and pull this up on screen?
Ready? Let's pull
what
it
do
up.
we got? We got a Wacom Intuos Pro Medium. So they made some adjustments to the pen holder. It's nice and sleek. Awesome design. And this final question, and when you're submitting this, don't forget on Twitter, submit with hashtag ZBrush2018, and make sure you give the best, most complete answer you can. Which new feature of ZBrush's 2018 innovates conceptual design by using projected primitives? All right, which new feature of ZBrush innovates conceptual design by use of projected primitives? All right, so good luck, and we'll be checking on that shortly. We've got a few things to go through, guys.
We got some other things to cover here for ZBrush 2018, right? So Before we even get into that stuff, we want to first say a couple thank yous. So number one, we want to thank Wacom for giving us that Intuos Pro to give to you and give away. That's very kind of them. I also want to encourage you guys to jump on Wacom.com. They've got new Cintiqs. We've been using a Cintiq here. It's awesome. They got a 24-inch now and a 32-inch, and they're 4K. And they'll use their new 3-button pen too, which is awesome. I've actually embraced it, made my own ZBrush menu on that 3rd button. It's coming very handy.
They also got that engine thing now they're doing?
Now there's actually, we're going to be able to put a computer right in your Cintiq now as well for either those 32-inch. So I would encourage you to head over to Wacom.com and check that out. It's pretty awesome, the new Cintiqs. So I also want to give a special thanks to the crew we have here, Mobion, who's behind, you guys don't get to see over here. They are the team that has been working with us to make this stream happen, and they make the ZBrush Summit happen with us. So they're running all the video and audio feeds. So when the sound goes off, it's not our fault.
Right?
So
you can see him panic though when Paul raises and lowers his voice. Though.
Yeah,
Like there's a lot of massive shifting.
I don't know if he's comfortable giving his name, but the audio guy, he's got a lot of moving of the hand when I talk. There's a lot of hand movement happening, a lot of sliding happening. And I'll be honest with you, it's all on purpose. All right, so I just want to thank them. It's been amazing working with them. They're locally here with us too, so they're a close company to us, and it's been they worked on the last 3 projects with us, and we'll continue working with them. So they're a great company to work with. But before we continue, obviously everyone was asking, I saw
Lots
in the
of
chat,
questions. Lots of questions.
Lots of questions.
Number one, obviously, when is ZBrush 2018 coming out? And then number 2, is it a free upgrade? Well, since 1999, we have been giving free upgrades. So you're talking 19 years of free upgrades. So I think it's time to make a little change and continue to give free upgrades.
I like what you did there. That's really great.
You like that? So yes, you will be getting ZBrush 2018 free of charge for a full license. So if you have a full license of ZBrush 4R8, or in that case, if you still have ZBrush 2, ZBrush 3, ZBrush 3.
You can still upgrade.
Number one, what are you doing? Number 2, I can understand maybe you didn't want to, all right? But you can upgrade to ZBrush 2018 now for free, right? So that's continuing the trend since 1999. So,
9 times.
Yeah, the stream has been going, I think, close to probably 2 hours. So we can't show everything that's in ZBrush 2018 for you in just one stream unless me and Joseph just went the whole entire day. So
Hook up the IV bags.
It's
getting hot in here. We had to kill the AC.
Yeah, we can't have the AC on so it gets warm. But obviously, we'll be doing stuff on our ZBrush Live streams for you.
Definitely.
Distinctly, the 3 of us. I know Thomas, who's also here on the team, who streams, will be showing nothing but a lot of ZBrush 2018 stuff. So the team here has worked really hard to try and show off a way to you guys can really see what ZBrush 2018 can do. So the media team, Kyle and Ashley and Kingsley, have put together a video with also the hard work of Joseph, minimal work by myself, and the rest of the team. There's so many people involved in this. So we're going to play a video for you now. So the guys at Mobian are going to play a video for you, and I want you guys to just sit back, get your popcorn, and soda it up. Yeah, that was great. How about that video? That was amazing. Hey, you know what we were just talking to you guys. We all want you to understand those spheres. That's all just Sculptris Pro, where this beta testers literally just took a sphere and sculpted only from a sphere. No additional subtools. And in some of those videos you saw, they were doing the stuff that Dross showed, where you smoothed out and made another piece, and then just started separating out and sculpting that. So think about all that capability and that strength now you're having with the Sculptris Pro capability. And then, of course, you now know when it's available! March 28th, tomorrow, at 11 a.m., you too will also be able to use ZBrush 2018. So we will be getting that to you tomorrow at 11 a.m., Los Angeles, Hollywood time. The heart of Hollywood, as Solomon says.
Historic.
The heart of Hollywood.
But besides having the capability to have it tomorrow, okay? Today, after the stream, not only will you be able to rewatch the stream and mute me all the time, but you'll also be able to go to our website and see our feature pages that are breaking down all these features a little bit more. We're also going to make our online docs available today to you, so docs.pixologic.com. Again, that's docs, D-O-C-S, .pixologic.com is going to be available today, so you can even start looking at things after the stream or rewatch the stream. But we've got some other changes that are happening with ZBrush besides becoming ZBrush 2018.
Well, we're going to talk about the other release first.
Oh, yeah?
Well, we've got the full version. Okay,
Yeah.
Just making sure you
got some other changes, Truss.
Getting excited.
Besides this, we want to...
You got to keep him in line.
Yeah.
He just goes off.
There are people, that are using other licensing systems, as an example, or schools and studios are using a float. So when's the float going to become available to them? April 10th. That's going to become available to you. So tomorrow will be the standalone version will become available, and the float will become available to you that need a float license April 10th. Now, I saw it actually come up in the chat a couple times. Continuing looking at some feature requests and things that people wanted, what we've also changed for ZBrush 2018 is something I think is going to be a big change. I know for me it's going to make things a lot easier, especially how I work. So what we've done now is the license has changed to a cross-platform. So that's right, you're now going to get one serial number, okay? And that one serial number can be now activated on a Mac or Windows machine. So you have a cross-platform, single serial number now. And by the way, you're going to get a whole new serial number for ZBrush 2018. So you will no longer need to use those old serial numbers for ZBrush 4 R8. You're going to get a whole new system. And by the way, this is going to be emailed to you, and this is very important. This comes down from my man, Ernest. You guys got to look for emails, because the only way you're going to be able to download ZBrush 2018 is through your registered email that when we send you this to get. Now, besides that, because we're bringing it up, we've also completely changed the licensing system and done something that you've all also been asking. It is now a login system. So when you launch ZBrush, you're going to use your Pixologic ID login. So you're already using that on support.pixologic.com. You're already using that on the website you see there, which is, my head's going to block it, which is the pixologic.com my licenses.
Totally block it.
Right? So that's where you can go and get all your serial numbers and everything else like that. So we've now streamlined this whole system that when you guys launch ZBrush 2018, it's going to ask you for a Pixologic ID. If you've never been on support or you've never gone to my licenses, you're going to have to generate and create a new actual registration to log in and be able to activate ZBrush. So this has been making, I'd say, activation so super smooth.
So a lot easier.
It's so much easier.
It is
I think
nice.
for all of you. I think you guys will like that for sure. Will be good. Now, the other thing that's going to happen, now I'm going to put myself back up.
You're okay.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
got
I'm
good.
now.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing that's going to happen here is we are going to be making an adjustment to ZBrush's price. So starting in 3 weeks, okay, you can show it now, we're going to be raising the price of ZBrush to $8.95. So for those of you that don't own ZBrush right now, you want to act now. You want to buy now while you can save that $100. Because right now ZBrush is $7.95, and of course you would be getting ZBrush 2018 tomorrow. But we need to raise the price. Well, we don't need to, but we are raising the price on April 18th for $895. So this is also going to affect the upgrade from ZBrush Core to full version of ZBrush. So for those of you that have ZBrush Core right now and you want to take advantage of getting ZBrush 2018, I would take advantage of that now while the price is still $695 to upgrade from Core to the full ZBrush, which is going to be ZBrush 2018.
Yep.
Because on April 18th, that also will go up in price to $795. So again, ZBrush itself will be going to $895, and the upgrading price will be being raised to $795. So you got 3 weeks to go through that. So I know people are dying to see who won the tablet. So let's see who won this tablet.
Yes. So the big winner for the Wacom Intuos Pro Medium is Ian, or handle Ian Hits Drum. Great username.
Nice.
So congratulations, Ian.
Congratulations.
You should be communicating with Kyle. If not, make sure you follow us. He'll be sending you a direct message to get all that over to you. So big small
Round of
clap
applause.
to the winners. Congratulations for the swag bag winners and the winner for the Intuos.
Right. So that's it. We just want to thank you guys for tuning in and being such an amazing community to come with us and listen
Thanks
to.
for being active on the chat.
Yeah.
You guys had some great questions. We hope you guys are excited. This is the big release for us. We've been working a lot on this one.
Lots of work.
Lots of work.
Lots of work.
There's a lot of great stuff. We really love working with you guys and connecting with you with the ZBrush Summit and our ZBrush Live. So make sure you get on ZBrush Live, because obviously we're going to be showing more about ZBrush 2018 through these next coming months for sure. Tomorrow as well, when we launch ZBrush for you that you can download, you're going to be able to see all the Z Classroom videos that we've also
Pertaining to the
created.
new features,
Pertaining
yep.
to the new features. So besides just rewatching the stream, you're also going to have videos already there for you tomorrow when we actually launch ZBrush 2018. So I can't thank you guys enough for participating with us and being here. We do this because we just love being able to connect with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. I do apologize for my loud, obnoxious voice.
Don't apologize.
But it's not going away, people.
No.
Polygroup it.
No. Polygroup it.
Polygroup it.
All right, so that's it for me. You guys got anything to say?
That's it.
Nope. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
We hope you enjoy.
Little Pickle Rick from the corner over there by Kyle.
We got a Pickle Rick reference in there today.
Pickle Rick over there. All right.
Great day.
All right, have a wonderful time. Thank you
everybody.
for tuning in. We'll see you online.